We're gonna, we recording it, that one,
I'm sorry.
we recording,
Yes.
okay, we're gonna open the meeting of the Community Preservation Committee on Wednesday, October 16th at 9:04. Call to order, establishment of a quorum. When I call your name, please tell me that you're in the room. Eleanor? Here. Neville?
Yep.
Tim?
Yes.
Joe?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Jesse?
Here.
And myself. Steve is gonna be watching the video, and I know John Schaefer is gonna be checking in here somewhere shortly. Okay, approval of, somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So.
Never made the motion, and Joe seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
You just say aye, because he's not up there yet. Approval of the minutes, which you have in your files. Has anybody had a chance to read them?
No problems.
Okay, Joe, you have no issue?
I have no issue.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Joe made a motion to approve the minutes, Neville seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a guest at the moment from Mariah Mitchell. She has a request which we thought to bring before the board. We didn't think there was an issue with it, but I wanted Jason just to explain it to everybody so there can be an official vote. It's all yours.
I think I know everyone, but I'm Jason Leonardo Finger, Deputy Director and Curator at the Mariah Mitchell Association for the record. And I'm here because for the last few fiscal years, I believe it was 2021 and now 2025, you have given us a grant to do exterior and interior conservation work to our Vestal Street Observatory. Always being the absolute maybe little over planner that I am. I started the preservation easement for the observatory probably a year or so before I applied for CPC funding. There are two preservation easements besides the observatory at the Mariah Mitchell Association, our former library, which is now a research center, which you funded the exterior for, and of course the Mitchell House. And unfortunately, several factors came in the way of getting our easement done in a timely fashion. One of those was COVID, for a myriad of reasons. But now we've had some issues getting it through with NPT and actually having them. They have a contractor who does the work, who is a really wonderful person, very thorough conservation, preservation architect, but it has dragged on for an extremely long time. And it is now finally, after much cajoling and pushing, has made its way up to Mass Historical. But the MMA is out about $55,000 from the fiscal year 2021 grant. And so we were at, and that's a lot of money that we've been sitting on since 2023. That has not been paid back because the easement is not completed. And I understand that the rule is typically that you have to have the easement in place. You can spend up to half the money, and then the easement has to be in place before you get reimbursed for the next half. But circumstances concerning the easements process over the last 2+ years has been something that's out of our hands. So the MMA was wondering if the CPC would allow us to be reimbursed for the money that we're outstanding, because as I said, the easement is at Mass Historical. It is going to happen. The MMA is not going to pull out. We know that if we were to pull out of the easement, we would be on the hook for all of the money that you've given us. But it's kind of a hard situation for a nonprofit to be waiting on this for such a long time. And it's, as I said, not anything that we have controlled except me constantly pushing them and saying, can we get this done? Can we get this done? Can we get this done? And then having our lawyer call them and saying, can we get this, can we get this done? Can we get this done? So that is why I'm here for this morning, in part.
We had trouble, and Neville remembers, and Ken probably, that we had trouble with trying to find people who hold the easement, get the easement. There have been issues with getting easements. Who's going to do the easement? Somebody did it, didn't do it. So some years ago, we adopted a policy that you can't get all the rest of your money after the 50% until you get that easement in place. And we didn't have any scoff laws basically, but it was just they were having difficulty finding someone to hold it until NPT started to hold them. We still have a couple of other preservation easements that they don't hold. So we passed a policy, and we thought this was egregious enough that they had done everything, and I've been in contact with them as also as to what is going on here. It shouldn't take that long to get a preservation easement, especially when they've been diligent about trying to get that easement in place. And we figured it was a policy, not a hard and fast rule. It's not in state law, it's not in our bylaws. That we bring it back to you guys to vote in favor of granting them their 3 years behind money, so they're not continuing to hold it, knowing that they're proceeding in good faith. So does anybody have any questions?
Well, I do. I very much support the policy. I, we've had trouble, Linda, as you know, over the years with some organizations getting the easement. I understand the hardship that it's presenting, and I'm willing to go a little bit, but I don't think we should waive the whole thing. Maybe give them 75% reimbursement, but I think there should be some holdback on the part of the CPC in support of our policy and what we've made everyone else do. So that's how I feel about it.
Unfortunately, some people have gotten their full 100% while they're waiting for the state to do it. Neville?
Yeah, just on that, I know some people have, and it might have been an oversight. I would like to think that. Jason, what year was this? What was this amount of money? Total amount?
Fiscal year 2021,
2021.
I believe is in the neighborhood of, I should have that number, I'm sorry. About
It's like
300.
$49,000.
Well, there's, the grant was for about $300,000.
Okay,
What we're sitting on for 2023, that's not yet reimbursed, is approximately $53,000.
and that's more than, so you've used more than half.
We've gotten reimbursed for the other monies.
And all you want to know, you said this is gonna happen.
Yeah, it's at Mass Historical. Mass Historical needs to review it, and that takes several months, and then it has to come back down to the town, which
Right.
takes another couple of months.
And all you want to know is, once the easement goes through, you're gonna go ahead and finish the job. But once the easements go through, we will reimburse you with the monies that we have for you. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking for you to reimburse us for the money now, even though the easement has not come back down to the town.
Just 53,000 and change.
This is my feeling on it. I would not, these are things that we do, and this is just, I'm just gonna express myself, based on a history. We've been working with Mariah Mitchell since almost the
Beginning.
beginning of this whole thing, and they've been pretty good. I wish I knew about it sooner. You know, I think these are the kind of things that happen that we should be kept up on. But, the amount is not that, it's not that large an amount. It does, for all practical reasons, belong to you. So I'm in favor of letting them use it. Only because they're an old, I feel of a better word, old client. And very dependable. And they do the work, and anyone can go up there and see the work that they do. And if anybody was here in the beginning, you know how passionate it was. From the very beginning, when Jason used to come in. She's coming and pleading for her case, and she's always kept her word on everything that she's done. So based on that, I would say I'm willing to let them have it.
Thank you. They have followed through on the other easements that we requested. So this just happens to be an anomaly, because I've even questioned what is taking so long.
Yeah.
You have a comment?
Who's the project manager for this?
It's probably.
Oh,
end
but
up with
just
Tom.
newly.
Just newly.
Was Ken before?
There wasn't anybody for a while.
So that's probably, I think that's.
It was
It
Dawn.
was
It
done.
was Dawn,
It was Dawn.
and that's why he sort of segued into it.
My,
but he-
my question sort of piggybacking on what he was saying is, would have been nice to have a sense that this was something that was happening. One, two, this isn't a criticism, because I understand, I've dealt with MHC, I know how sluggish they can be, squeaky wheels do help. Have you enlisted the help of Holly? I'm sure you've tried that, but Holly can be very influential. She actually has.
Well, the problem was not with Mass Historical at that time. It was with the contractor who does all the easements for Nantucket Preservation Trust.
yeah.
It was
And
like-
he is notoriously slow, and he's one of the few people in New England who does them. And
Right.
he's the only one that does them for Nantucket Preservation Trust, who holds our other two easements. So it was me pressuring Mary, and then Mary pressuring Brian. And repeatedly our attorney calling Brian directly, because I was trying to keep myself out of it, because we also have to continue our relationship with NPT, and NPT is a good partner to us and also a colleague. We do other things together. So it was a little bit of a fine line where how much you could pressure on them, but, and he was just dragging his feet, and there was lots of excuses. And then it just got to the point this summer that I was like, we can't do this anymore. And that's when Mary really put the pressure on him, and then that's when I sent the email, maybe in August or
And then I got a hold of them.
Well, maybe Holly, at sort of as a CLG agent per se, she can be helpful now to
Now that it's
nudge
a
the
MHC.
process,
Yeah.
expedite per se. It's just a suggestion. I used to work with Holly, and she does, I know that she speaks to them a lot.
And this won't be the first one or the last one.
Well, that's my concern.
Yeah, and that's my concern.
And I
said
would
this
like to
can't go
maybe
on.
going forward, I'm sure we do this, and I've only been on for 2 years, but just encourage people to be aware that this process can be extremely challenging.
This is not, like I've said, I've done 2 others for the MMA, and I've never had this difficulty. Usually it takes time,
Yeah.
but it
Not 2
usually
years.
moves, and it's beyond 2 years. It's
Yeah.
like, and I started it knowing, I started it, like I said, about a year before I applied for the first grant, knowing that it was gonna be a slow process. But this kind of is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Is it Brian Pfeiffer? Good luck. Maybe one of us should have a conversation, Brian, I have a cell phone, about what causing, does he understand that people only get at 50%? Does he get exactly?
I don't, he might know that now. I don't know if he knew it
All right,
before.
well,
Maybe you
he was-
emphasize.
yeah, I'll have a conversation.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
if you don't mind, just three, I just wanna, listen, just to indulge for 1 second. This is something for like the new members, that we always used to do it, and I think we should go back to it, because it's also us looking out at our projects. We know what we know that they have to have an easement, we should be up with them in terms of, where they are with it and bring it forward to the committee. So we would know. That's what I'm saying. We didn't know. That's the only thing I regret, not knowing, and not knowing, not through you necessarily, but through your representative from here. You know, so I think it's important for us to like really stay on top of our projects.
And can the project manager be an advocate as well to, not that we would necessarily have the ear of Brian Pfeiffer, but just another voice to squeaky wheel. Andrew Morse used to say squeaky wheel gets the grease. I
because
completely believe that
between
to be
last year and the ones that are ongoing right now, this year, FY 25, we have an awful lot of historic preservation things that need project managers. And this will be one of the tasks of project managers, is to follow up on
what's that?
their things. And you normally, when they put requisitions for payment in, that's when you have contact with them, because you have to sign off on it. We're gonna go back to the process before COVID. You'll be in constant contact with them. Does somebody feel comfortable making a motion to grant their money?
So move.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
second for discussion.
okay.
To Neville's point, I agree with his comments. It's fine with Brian Turpit's office. And we've done this before.
Yeah, Brian has nothing to do with the local policy, our policy.
But for purposes, okay,
Yeah, he's not involved with this part of it. He puts the requisition in that we put in.
okay.
And my extensive conversations with the state, we set our own rules and regulations down here that's very loosely written at the state level. So we can set our deadlines when we want, we can set whatever we want to put in the warrant. I mean, it's very much under our auspices as to what we do.
So basically extending the, by X amount of time, I don't even know how long it's been exactly, the submission of the easement requirement.
We can do pretty much what we want.
All we have, we made a policy that we made amongst ourselves here. That nobody gets all their money on, they only get up to 50% of the event, which you know. Until you get your easement, if that's a requirement. You know, if that project requires an easement or a deed restriction or what have you. So that's just a known thing that we have, and we have it with all of our clients. And it's in there. I think
Neville
it's-
made the motion and Tom seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Tim is opposed, so it's 7-1. I still don't see him
Thank
up there.
I appreciate it.
Well, you might as well hang around.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. You're coming up in a minute. Okay, so the first one we have is Nantucket Island School Design. They here? Leonard?
There, no.
That's the fund requisition.
Oh.
It's,
Turn
St.
the
Paul.
page here. Oh, we just have one fund requisition?
Yes.
Okay, anybody have any questions about that one? Somebody want to, we don't know yet.
Neville is-
I'm the project
Neville.
manager.
All right, Neville, any comments?
No, motion to approve.
I never made a motion to approve, Joe seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I can turn the page.
And make that.
Where should we?
We might want everybody to push that
Sit down.
direction.
Can't just sit on the.
I can go, you wanna sit here? and I can
Might be
sit
better
around?
going this way.
Why don't I move?
Oh, either way, yeah. go this way.
You guys can be at the-
Right here.
You're fine.
Here, sit down. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for
Get closer to you.
Okay.
offering us the opportunity to.
Jesse, if you don't have room, we can have a little room over there.
It's okay, we're just.
So this is our opening, interview. And as you can see from the, spreadsheet, we've been involved with, St. Paul since 2006. I've been their project manager all the way through. And having worked with, Dual McIntyre, who was sorely missed.
So do
All those years, I mean, he did a phenomenal job. He was a wonderful steward, and you guys, after him, are wonderful stewards of St. Paul's. We've been involved with almost everything on St. Paul's, the handicap accessibility, the addition, the tower in particular.
Yeah.
We've done the roof, we did the windows, and various other things over time, because Dual was very judicious about what he applied for and how to spread it out into multiple years to fix it. You're doing the tower, or you've done the tower. It's been great.
Tower is done.
Yeah.
Check.
And,
Thank you.
so now they're back again. I assume this will be one of the last ones.
This is part of the master plan and I would say yes,
Okay,
but
well,
don't quote me.
all right, introduce yourselves for everybody who don't know.
Okay,
Know
well,
you.
this is the important guy. This is Martin McCarroll, who's the treasurer of the vestry of St. Paul's. The vestry is the governing body that works in collaboration with the rector, Max Wolf. And I'm just the warden, which is one of the two leaders of the vestry. Very modest. And
And you are?
Bob Phelps, sorry about that.
I know that, but
Yeah.
for the record.
And I thought whether I should mention this or not, because I would get emotional, but a person that I look up to, who was no longer with us, held my position at St. Paul's for many years. And we all miss Ken Bowman. So we're before you today to basically take the final phase of preservation, restoration, upgrading of St. Paul's space. We have three elements. One is preservation of the undercroft, which is Gardner Hall. I don't know how many of you have been there, but it's our community gathering place. It's where we gather for coffee after our services. It's where we would like to enable people who have funerals or weddings to have receptions. Right now, it is not suitable for that for a number of reasons. One reason is there is no air handling in that space. There's no ventilation. It's chilly in winter, it gets hot in the summer.
And very humid. That's the very big issue, for us in the summer particularly.
Right. So we're focusing on upgrading that space. CPC's been very helpful in enabling us to create a commercial kitchen there. So that's in place. That goes back about 12 years. And also the Domi entrance after another wonderful former warden, Sam Domi. So we have a main access to that space, and we also have a lift that CPC helped with. So in addition to preservation of the Cardinal Hall space, we are looking at protecting the entire building, the physical space, with a fire suppression system. I don't know how many churches have sprinkler systems here. Every church should have one, and we have nothing at the moment. So that's an important request we have. And the Gardner Hall, we're also looking to establish a secondary means of egress. Right now, you come in the Donnelly entrance and you go down some stairs. And on occasion, we've had 200 people attempt to go down those stairs in a very short amount of time at our Christmas stroll fair. So it's a bottleneck. The life safety issues are very apparent. So we're talking with Emeritus about designing a secondary egress from that space. So basically preservation, protection, and safety.
Could I add two things?
Yep.
One, we had a fire, and I think that's the thing that really woke us up. It's a small fire. We were very lucky. We had a fire in the Gardner Hall area of the building in December.
December 16th at 2:30 in the afternoon. I remember it.
And
The
the alarm system worked. The police, the fire were very effective in getting there, putting out the fire. If it had gone on, it really could have been serious. Secondly, if you've ever seen church fires, there are very few partial losses. Our structure is a very wood structure. Secondly, in terms of the egress, this is, as Bob said, it's a real life safety issue. Right now, there is a secondary egress. I do not believe it will pass code. The secondary egress is almost impossible to find to begin with. And it's curving back stairs that go out in a tiny narrow space. We found a way to create a second meaningful egress from it. So we think to use this space publicly, we really need to do this. It's a big number too.
And there are other elements of work that St. Paul's is going to take on its own nickel. We're looking at 2 million plus of expenditure by St. Paul's for really Gardner Hall, let's say. And we have a capital campaign at this point. We're sort of halfway through it.
Definitely. Our goal is $4.4+ million. The parish itself has raised about $1.6 million. We've raised about $1.6 million in the parish, from the parish right now. And what's been encouraging for that, I might add, is that we're about 50% paid on those. It's a 5-year capital campaign, and we've already received 50% of the commitments, which is really encouraging, I must say. But it's a big number for us, raising money. I'm finding out, and Bob knows it better than I do. Raising money for church is much more difficult than it is for the NHA or the Conservation Federation or the Athenaeum. Anybody who's got big name recognition in the community, we've got a smaller audience. And that audience already is giving us $500,000 or $600,000 a year in pledging. So it's what I think will make us the goal.
But we're counting on CPC to play a major role. And again, we appreciate your past support. So do I need to go through the numbers? Do you have any questions?
Well, most everybody should have reviewed their numbers by now. Did I have a couple of questions, but Eleanor?
I'll
Go ahead.
Just, I spoke to you yesterday about my question, but I think it's a great project. I read all of it, all the specs, all the stuff you've done, a lot of obviously appraisal of the building structurally and come up with a really good plan in terms of the safety aspect of things. My only question is, typically we don't cover contingency, and I saw that was built into some of your estimates.
Right.
The 10% contingency, and there's also some gas boat lodging costs that are like $42,500. I don't know where we stand on that. I just wanted clarification for my own benefit. The contingency was 10%. I think that was mainly to do with HVAC, but maybe it was everything. And then we do cover construction admin, right?
And depending on usually with the churches, which are not churches under this. The legislation, they're not legislative, but a court case, they're historic structures. Those are the ones that are least able to handle the construction management part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some other things that we give money to don't require construction management.
Right.
But you needed one for St. Mary. There's no way the priest of St.
Right, they don't have it built in like
They don't have it.
Ed Rudd or
They've had
something.
construction management with St. Paul's
Yeah.
before, so there are certain projects that they can handle on their own. We don't we have the second shop on Indian Street, we haven't done a construction management person there. They have in-house people. And we generally don't do it with ANHA because they have in-house people. And so they have people on call for that kind of stuff. But the churches typically have not been able to handle the construction management part of it, especially when you dealt with the tower. That was a very complicated situation.
I'm sure this would be all Steve Hollister for St. Mary's, right?
Yeah.
Same.
We did have that discussion last year, for those who were here last year, on
Yeah, that's why
Steve
I'm asking.
Hollister with St. Mary's, because there's no way they can manage that themselves.
Right.
So he was retained, he's the one who did the presentation, he's the one who put the thing
Yeah, that
together.
makes sense. I just.
So it makes sense in this case, but to back up what she said, normally we don't pay for contingencies,
Right.
and normally we don't pay for lodging and food and stuff like that. So
Okay.
we're more of a hard cost
Yeah.
type of thing. So did you pull those figures out?
I did, but I don't, I mean, my horrible
HVAC is 7,300 with 10% contingency.
right, and then
Subtract that.
42.5 for the gas, boat lodging, et cetera, but double check my numbers, because I'm scribbling as I'm reading this stuff.
Okay, so just when we go through these, we just sort of have to parse out stuff.
Right,
Yep.
And the other question that we have to ask is, because you've got three-pronged request.
Yeah.
Is if we couldn't, we'd only have maybe 3.5 million. I haven't gotten that figure from Brian yet. I should get it any time now because we're closing in on November. And he should know what the state's giving us back. The only thing that I always want everybody to do, and a lot of people have done that, is split it up. If you can't get the whole amount,
Right.
what are the priorities, which was something Dual was really nuts and bolts on.
Right.
Have you established what your priorities are if we can only fund partial?
Yeah, I think the fire suppression is priority number one. Okay.
What's that amount?
The
324.
325,000.
Okay. Okay,
right, so that's number one.
all right, that's number one. And what's number two?
Emeritus is some of it's sunk cost. We've already engaged them for design work. They've designed 4 different egress options for us. We've narrowed it down to 1.
All right, so is that the egress is number 2,
Yes,
and number 3 would be the Gardner Hall.
I mean, Gardner Hall is not occupiable.
Yes, I've been down there many times. Yeah, it's rough, especially in the summer. Ellen, do you have any more questions?
No, I think the project's a great project. I just wanted to, I think we need to have some continuity on that stuff. I completely understand about the case by case on the construction management.
Yeah. Okay, is anything else? Neville?
Part of this is the AC, the air conditioning, you want to put. Is that in your priority for your number one? Is that part of your number one priority? The AC,
See, egress and air handling are 2 kind of equally important
Yeah.
elements for safety and for really using the space. So if I had to pick one, I would say the HVAC.
no, when I'm asking specifically, not necessarily that. In the church itself.
Right.
You're gonna put in an air conditioning unit, am I correct?
The main floor, we're going to cover the cost.
You're covering the cost of that, okay.
Yeah.
That's
There are
all.
a bunch of mini splits that are going there, so this
Okay.
is really the
And upstairs,
Upstairs.
upstairs is what we're gonna cover.
yeah.
He's gonna cover it, the treasurer.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
No question for you on the fire suppression side of it. They're gonna be doing work all over the building. How much is the HVAC?
139, 300.
Yeah, that's what I'm questioning, because if they're gonna be doing work all over the building with the fire suppression, there's no reason why the HVAC couldn't go in at the same time.
Okay, you're talking about the Cardinal Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the main church is the HVAC for that is, we're actually trying to get one. Angel, good for a church, huh? To pay for that. So, and if that person doesn't step up, we're likely to hold on the HVAC for upstairs. For Gardner Hall, we had that, it's a priority.
When that's 139?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other questions from anybody? Jesse?
I just had a quick one. With the 325 and the air handling, is that also when they put that into the estimate, is the finished work afterwards? Because I assume you're gonna be taking things apart to put this
Yeah.
system in. Is that part of the cost?
It is, and we have another proposal that came in shortly after this, we submitted this, so, and that's roughly the same ballpark, it's about 400,000, but it really includes all the design work. And I don't know,
And,
James can comment about it.
the 400,000 is included in the number or?
No,
No, okay.
so this is the number that we have in another. So we've got two main quotes for that.
Thank you.
Well, did you see John? He just texted me.
I don't see him on here. I don't see him logged in.
All right, hang on, because he just tried to call. I'm not sure he can get in. I can't get him.
Murphy.
Prompts on that.
If he does try to get in, you can see the prompt.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
just pulled it up. He's not there.
See him either.
Need to get Vince back.
Let me ask a question since all this is going on.
Yep.
So you're gonna be raising about 1.9 million, that's what you're trying to raise for your project?
We will,
Yourself.
that's what we will end up spending.
Yeah, I
on
would say-
project, our own-
I would
own
say
funds.
two.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
And we've already put, if you've taken the tower, we put in 400,000, about $400,000 into
Yes.
that tower project on
Uh-huh.
top of the CPC.
Okay.
So we're doing our own funding, if
We-
possible.
Yeah, we've painted the entire.
Yes, I like it. Thank you very much.
And I can say that all the years I've worked with them, what, 18 years, they've always tried to contribute. And we do have questions for a lot of these groups, is what have you done to raise money on your own or contribute to a project when they come in here over the time? And some don't have the wherewithal to do that. Others have done a great job, like St. Paul's all these years. So it's always much more positive when an entity comes in here and say that they have made great attempts to raise their own money to do their things, like the Second Shop does, and you have various other entities that come in here. And they've always done a fantastic job of raising money for all of these projects and contributing. They've never just come in and say, hey, give me money. We're not doing anything on our own to raise any money. So this has been an exemplary group, which is why they've been with us since where we started in April of 2001, and they've been with us for a long time, so,
That's hard too, when you're basing it on collections.
yeah. Any other questions for anybody? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, when you came in, I thought you were security. That's what-
Thank you for that support.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, it's a phenomenal building. I've got pictures of the building, not that, but when the Episcopal Church was over there next to the Jerry Coffin House. And then they built this structure up on Fair Street and that went away, and then the Webster Building was built over there. And it was an interesting building at that time. This is a paragon, when people go up there when they're tourists here to see the windows.
The doors are open every day.
Yeah, particularly in the-
5.
The vestry, I have to say, was one of my first jobs as a carpenter. When I came, I put those dormers up there. Thank you very much.
And I actually had the opportunity to go all the way up in the top of the tower, climb the ladder,
You
get through the
survived.
hole, and I survived.
You've been on the roof?
No. Well, actually, when they were building the addition, I was up in the scaffolding.
When I have pictures from up there, we thought about putting the captain's walk up there and selling.
Oh, it,
Having a picnic up there.
It was interesting, I can tell you.
Oh, I
I'm not
bet it is.
claustrophobic, but that was a little tight.
It's not much fun getting up there, though. I admire you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
back. Oh, again. It's been so long.
How's your reason coming?
All right, if you look at your spreadsheet, you can tell Mariah Mitchell started out with us in '04.
Where, do we have an extra sheet? I didn't bring mine.
I don't think so, I just have the one.
Right.
They started out with us in '04, and we've been working with them on and off ever since. And if anybody who's ever been into the house and seen the paintings and all the work we've done in her home, as well as when I went up into the observatory, another final step.
You can have this.
They've done a magnificent job and they did a great job on the museum across the street and everything else. So
Okay.
we've been working with Jason for a long time.
Yes, I remember meeting with Ken and Neville up in the Methodist church on the summer floor.
20 years we've been with Mariah Mitchell.
So
Go
thank
for
you.
it.
So I'm Jason Leonardo Finger. I'm the MMA's Deputy Director and Curator. And I'd like to start off by saying thank you again for all of the support over the years. We would not have been able to do some of these conservation and preservation projects without you. And just to kind of highlight some of those, they have included at the Mitchell House, which does have a preservation easement. Historic grain painting that dates to the 1850s, that was conserved, decorative painting throughout the house, structural and climate engineering studies and work. Our chimneys being stabilized and repaired, as well as stone conservation projects that included doing a workshop that was free to the public that I continue to this day to teach people how to properly clean historic gravestones in the cemeteries. And then, of course, our library, which is also under preservation easement with the Nantucket Preservation Trust, which is now a research center. And that was the exterior that you helped us with that as well. And then, of course, recently mentioned about a half hour ago, the observatory, both the exterior and then last year for fiscal 2025, you granted us monies to work on the interior of the building. We have sought other funding from other sources over the years. In addition, at times CPC money has allowed us to kind of present that we have this funding to get more funding and vice versa. So it has been supportive in both ways. But we have gone to private foundations here on Nantucket, also received a prestigious 1772 foundation grant that helped do work on Mitchell House. That was also with Mass Preservation, Mass Cultural Facilities Fund grants that have paid for things, which is a matching grant. So we have sought monies in other places in order to do the work that we are doing at the MMA. Most of our buildings date before 1920. And I, besides being curator of the Mitchell House and the deputy director, I'm also our facilities director. So I deal with all of the different buildings on the site. So I am the project manager for all of the projects that are going on at all of our buildings, whether they're historic or non-historic.
Tell
So
them how many buildings you have.
we have about 16 buildings, and all of various materials, starting the earliest being 1790, which is the Mitchell House. And that's my first love. That's why I started at the Mariah Mitchell Association. And we are asking this year if you would support us in a massive undertaking, which is the replacement of our roof, which has seen the end of its natural life. We have done maintenance on it over many years to prolong its life. It's approximately 30 years old. But as you can see from the images and my write-up, it is now time to replace it. It's beyond our ability to kind of maintain it. So we are asking for $155,000 to cover that cost. It will be Jim Wyden doing the work. I have an older estimate from him, but he has signed off and said, yes, it's still good for what it is. This basically is the first kind of defense for a building. It protects everything that is inside the building and all the work that we have done to the building. So I hope that you will be able to support us this year again.
Is it asphalt? Is it wood?
It's wood now. It was concrete and asbestos circa 1933 until about 1990 or so when it was replaced. So it's about a 30 to 35-year-old roof at this point.
Cedar shake, I thought it was.
It is cedar shake now, yes, but that's a 30 to 35-year-old roof. I was there when it was replaced.
Yeah, the photos from.
You get longer, different
Graphic.
butts. So if you order like a 5/8 butt, you get more, like another 10 or 15 years. So that's impressive we got that for.
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, the word maintenance is a big trigger. Because in some instances, we can't use the word maintenance on a historic house or building.
Preservation.
So it's preservation, what we have to do when we do write, justify it, we can say protection of an historic resource. Protecting the envelope, where in this case, there's a lot of things inside the building we've already paid for. We want to protect that, so we got to be careful when people use the word maintenance, we sort of have to redirect that word. Because if it's straight maintenance, we can't pay for it.
Right.
But if it's preserving an historic structure. And the artifacts that are in it, because we've done that with some buildings, like the Life Saving Museum. That's not an old building. But we preserve the artifacts that are in the building. So there are various ways of couching that, but if it's straight maintenance, for gosh sakes, you know, like painting or something, you've got to deal with it. So we have to be very careful how we use the word maintenance.
Where are you seeing that? I only saw that. Go ahead.
No, Linda, can I just
Yeah.
add to that? The correct language to use is to protect from harm, danger, or injury.
I only saw the word maintenance in terms of them taking on the responsibility of keeping an eye on and upkeeping the new roof. I didn't see it in terms of the use of these funds.
Right, you just said maintenance, but that just triggered something I wanted to make sure everybody
Okay.
understood that word maintenance. When we hear it every once in a while, we sort of have to redirect, is it actually maintenance because you just didn't do it, or because we're protecting an historic resource, which is in this case is exactly what we're doing, because we paid for everything else on the building, so we were protecting what's going on, but we have preserved the exteriors of newer structures because they protect the artifacts that are within those structures. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but we have run into that before.
Right.
Okay, any questions for Jason?
Only thing that I'm bringing it up for continuity's sake, and I saw that you were very intelligent. You anticipated the question. You know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
I just wanted for discussion, the contingency, you're very articulate about, you know, I mean, this is what everybody says, things, and we all know it. We've all had building projects, especially with, I have a 1790 house, and I'm like, you with one shingle on the whole.
Yes, exactly.
So I just want to put it out for discussion, the $10,000 contingency that's built into your estimate.
Would you like me to respond to that?
Well, I don't know if anybody else cares. I just want to be
No, we can't pay for contingency.
consistent.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the past, you have awarded us contingency. And in fact, the last two observatory ones, you did award us contingency. I only asked for a small amount. Because to help, obviously, if there's a huge problem, it would go beyond that. So the MMA would have to find other sources, in order to cover that. I don't foresee a huge problem, knock on wood, because I can see the sheeting boards in the attic. So.
And they've already been
Yes.
replaced. When they replaced the roof before, they probably would have dealt with the seating issues. Sometimes contingencies may be justified when you're dealing with an historic structure, having worked on plenty of them. And you have as well, is when you take something, a wall board off, you don't know what's inside that wall, because the minute you start taking apart an historic structure, it's like, oh my God, now I got this, now I got this, now I got this. Not usually a very straightforward, Joe too, a straightforward attack on an historic structure. You think you're just gonna have to do this, this, and this, and it's fine, and all of a sudden you take the wall board off, and it's like, oh my God, I have something that's failing. So it's not uncommon for historic structures to end up with a contingency. There are other things that, like, why am I paying a contingency for this, a Nantucket rate or something?
No, I understand the reason, and I think,
So, but
It's pretty clear, it's just,
I want you,
how do we handle it?
Yeah. I want you to pull it up when it comes up like that. So it's 10,000 on yours, okay? Any other questions for Jason? Tom?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just on the, not that anybody's questioned the merits of the project, but we did meet when we talked about the fence and all that, and you did show me. And that part of the roof that you want to get is much worse than the rest of it, and it is about protecting the rest of the building. And it's way overdue. So that was quite clear from the tour you gave me.
Yeah.
That it is really time.
Yeah, the copper strips and all of that don't do anything, and the removal of the moss is, at this point helping.
Holding that roof on.
The mason and Austin was up there doing something else and with a different grant and was like, I can remove some of the moss for you. And she started, you know, because it was time to do it. And she was like, okay, we're not removing the moss. We're leaving it where it is. So that's why it's been helping.
The next question is, you can't get any of this until July 1 of next year. Can you get that far?
Yes, yes. Yes, Jim has looked at it, Penn's looked at it, so it is, it is. Knock on wood, static.
And we already have a preservation restriction on that
Yes.
building.
Exterior and interior.
Now, can you adjust that in order to cover this? Without having to get another preservation?
No, the
restriction?
preservation easement is the
Covers the whole thing.
whole
Covers the
thing
whole thing.
forever, and it goes back to like two thousand and
Covers the whole thing.
four, two thousand and three.
That's in here, whatever it is. Yeah.
Who's holding that, by the way?
The Nantucket Preservation Trust holds our easements.
Just a wild question. Are we holding some preservation restrictions?
We do have some in the
Yes,
office.
So we should probably try to put them all in one place, because I know I'm trying to convert one out of the NHA over to NPT. On something, and that they should all be in one place,
Well, I know that we took it on because I know the town had some.
right?
Then the NHA had some. Then when we took it because, we were the only one that didn't have it. We found out that CPC can't hold some of these things. I don't think we've taken on any in the recent years. Yeah,
The NPT is
Yeah.
really is the
Yeah,
right
good.
place
Yeah.
to do it, and it's good to
Yeah.
have somebody local, unlike
Yeah.
somebody from off island or another
Yeah.
entity where you have a conflict of
Yeah.
interest, so
Yeah.
NPT really is the right
yeah,
place.
but it wasn't operating like this, the way it is.
No.
Yes.
No, not when they started,
Yeah.
in 2006. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jason.
Take a quick. And this is just one of those things where you can't prioritize and split this grant up.
No,
This
I
is
agree.
one roof and one roof only.
You do half a roof,
No,
that's not a thing?
I did have my roof, but it was the backside of my roof.
Aren't there two sides?
I never got to the front side. I had to do the front side recently, but I've split them between front and back because the south side gets really wrapped. All right, so are we running ahead of time?
Jenna? No, we're like, we're a few minutes behind.
Okay. Landmark house.
Hi,
Oh, yeah.
good, and you? How you doing? Oh, Judy.
Saw Ginny's face going out the door. I didn't see you. It's all right.
The real plans.
You watched this video, John couldn't get in because he's dealing with a leak in the basement and Steve is working, so he's gonna watch the video. Just watch the video.
Okay.
Okay, and give you some history on the landmark house. The landmark house is an interesting structure. It's an historic structure. People don't realize that. It was the Alms House when it was moved in from Fuller's Road. And the structure is really old. So it is an historic resource. We have been funding it for some time. It's just that people don't really think of it as a historic resource, but it is an historic resource because of where it came from. And we've been working with here. We've done the windows, we've done, I believe your handicap access this time. So that has failed, beginning to fail.
Elevator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure everybody understands that that is an historic resource and not a new building. Will you introduce yourselves?
Jennifer Schneider, for those of you that don't know me, I think most everybody knows me. I'm currently the president of the board of directors for our lovely landmark house. It is indeed a historic building. It's been there as long as I can remember, when they used to drag us all in at the end of the summer when all the trade girls quit, when it was the original island home.
Yep.
We would first of all like to thank you for your continued support, because it's loving and needed for all of our residents. Many people have been there for a lot of years. They do need, what we're looking to talk about today is the handicap access on the back of the building. It really is in danger of crumbling. It's been there just forever. The stairs are starting to diminish. The retaining walls, there's a handicap ramp for access. We have people in automated wheelchairs and things that need to come down and be able to get out of the building for their continued flow of life and be able to not be stuck in a building someplace. We feel it's a very valuable project, and our tenants would seriously appreciate being able to go out and make sure that nothing falls on them. Well, if we're crumbling, and I think it's right at the point where it's gonna break down considerably now due to weather and ice and stuff, because it's a concrete ramp. The retaining walls are giving a little way. Jordan had put some nice pictures in here of what it's currently looking like, and I'd like to get a little more in the way of handrails and stairs and retaining walls.
Want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Georgie Sharman, I'm the executive director. And I just want to also reiterate how grateful we are to be able to come here. I was just sitting thinking about, hopefully next year we wouldn't have to apply, but then I realised the nature of the beast of a historic building is continuing to process, so.
Stop looking.
Like, what's that?
You'll find something every day.
I know.
Keep going.
I know, but we really appreciate it, and we do support, like you have given us last year the money for the elevator, and for us to accommodate that, we're installing, from other funds, electric stair system, because the elevator will be out of use for at least 6 weeks, so there's always other money that we're also trying to support the building with, so we do appreciate everything that we do.
It's difficult for this particular project for them to raise money, given that it's a quasi town and CEA is involved. There's private entities involved, but it's difficult. This is one of those we're trying to raise funds on their own. It's almost impossible. And on historic structures, we are allowed to provide handicap accessibility. Because we've done that with a Hadwin house with a lift. We're gonna probably have to do it with, we haven't already done it with the Macy warehouse. So anytime you have an historic structure, we're allowed to pay for new handicap accessibility. So that's part of what they're doing now, because we already did part of it. Anybody have any questions? Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say, we have capital needs assessment pretty much every 5 years, and this is, on the top of our roads aren't accessible, pretty much sometimes, so it's a bit of a process, but it's all kind of intertwined, and it's hard to do less than the walls are disintegrating water, so they're gonna try and replace those with, walls that's more accessible and attractive.
Well, the stairs are not much fun
Stairs
either.
are disintegrating
They are not much
too.
fun at all.
And they're brick and they're disintegrating,
They're chipping.
yeah.
Anybody have any questions for this group?
No.
Great.
Yeah.
You guys
Very,
take
very
some
well.
care of the building. and the
It's a very,
building is-
very well written.
Yeah, very well written, and it's a very difficult building to keep up with. Very difficult.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your stewardship.
Thank you so much. Yet again.
Listening to us in the young time.
Painful, painless.
Painless is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good timing, guys.
Yours?
There we go. Good to see the old pictures of the Tom's house when it first moved over there. They're pretty cool. They're all the NHA old pictures of the island. Run.
They floated it down the hall, didn't they?
Good to see you.
It's just amazing that building was able to get from there all the way up there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Hello there.
Oh, good, how are you guys?
All right.
All right, they're in here for several weeks. What we gave them last year was a substantial amount of money because the interior of the candle factory, which used to be the Whalen Museum for us, was separating from the building. So they're beginning the project in the back. We paid for Main Street, we paid for Hadwin, we paid for Macy. We've been working with the NHA for almost since the very beginning. And, these are usually costs. We did the Fair Street Museum, which was fantastic. And these are usually costs that are outside of what they are able to maintain, because they have so many buildings that are in need of constant repair. Anybody driving by the old mill, you can see that that's going on also. They've all been my projects since '03. So go ahead, guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Introduce yourselves for everybody who doesn't know you.
Yep, Niles Parker, I'm the executive director at the NHA.
Ed Rudd, the Director of Facilities for the NHA.
Okay,
And-
what do you want to tackle? first?
Well, yeah, and thank you for your point, really, we're very grateful for the support over the years. It's been a number of projects, as you just indicated, and as we showed in the application. And it wouldn't have happened without your support, for sure, I mean, because we do have to raise funds every year for 18 historic properties, and as I heard you say earlier, you almost don't want to look every year because you're gonna find something, so. Anyway, we are looking, and we're developing a plan that will carry us through over the next several years at all of our properties in terms of what we attack and when we attack it, and preventative maintenance and those issues. And this first one that we're talking about, the Fair Street Library, the Fair Street Museum, now Research Library, and Quaker Meeting House, is a follow through from some of that work. And again, work that you have supported. The restoration has gone very well. And it was during that restoration where we really began to discover some of the issues surrounding the roof membrane of the research library, the skylight that's now about 25 years old on the research library, and the Quaker Meeting House roof itself, and how the two are connected. I don't know if you want to say anything more about some of the findings.
We've been watching the rooftop, and we had a good assumption with Jim Lyden up on the roof. When we started the first phase of this project, that the roof would be good for another 3-4 years, and the Quaker Meeting House roof would be good for 3-4 more years. So we thought, let's just concentrate on the masonry work. 7 Fair Street is very congested, so we know there's another project right behind us that they were doing. So we thought we'd just put that off for 3 years. But it's turned out that now the roof is just showing its age. The skylight is beyond its lifetime, and it is actively leaking. So we've moved tables around inside the building so that leaks land on anything important. We have mitigated as much as we could. We've done probably 8 different patch jobs up on the roof, but it's sort of like trying to plug the dike for that. So it is time to be able to change out that roof, and that roof, the rubber membrane, because it's a flat roof, goes underneath Quaker Meeting House roof, which lays on top of that. And so if we're doing the rubber membrane roof, we should do the Quaker roof too at the same time. Skylight, it's just, it's time, it needs to be replaced. And then with the HVAC, they've set it up so that the condenser units are all over the rooftop. And so what I'd like to do, and I showed them pictures, is combine it near where the elevator shaft is that sticks out of the roof. And also that will mitigate so much the supply line work, but also just for the neighborhood to try to make it as quiet as possible. So people aren't having the condensers whining and whirling all the time. And we'd make just a low little noise buffer, whether it's out of wood or something on the rooftop. But the way it is sitting right next to the edge of the building now, a good wind would just take any sort of windbreak off. And if I could say too, with these projects right now, we are switching all of our PM work that we have at the museum to a new, we work off a facility dude, but now we're updating that to a system that allows us to be able to capture all of our information real time by phone, get it into our maintenance system, photos, everything. And this is whether it's weather change related jobs, anything like that. So now we're gonna have a much tighter control of our of what we're looking at for our maintenance work day to day, year to year. And throughout, so we're pretty excited about that.
Can you get to next year to get the funding for that roof? Because you can't get the money until next July 1.
Yes,
All right.
Yeah, we plotted that out in terms of how we operate the library. And instead of shifting things around on the inside, so when,
Because that skyline's right in the middle.
it is,
Yeah, great light, but it's right in the middle.
and it's cracked, it's leaking. So we've already taken steps to sort of temporarily work around that.
Ellen,
Sorry, this really would just put a bow on it and wrap this project up, we think. Get us-
tighten
get us there.
tighten the exterior, because we did all the masonry on the outside, the windows on the outside. And now we got the problem, the biggest problem. Eleanor?
Great project. I love doing research there myself, so fully support the project, but you have asked for 25% contingency. That's a lot. It's $72,063. As you may not have heard in the prior presentations, but we typically do not cover contingencies.
okay.
Do you?
We put that contingency on there just because of the rubber membrane roof. There's gonna be a little bit of exploratory once we pull off the rubber membrane roof, because obviously we're not gonna go over any rock or anything like that. And from what we see of it leaking, obviously it's coming from the roof, so I just wanna make sure that we button up everything, tie in everything. Scott Anderson is gonna be putting the skylight in. So I and Jim Lyden walked through and said, what do we need to do if worst case is worse? Because there's not two separate roofs. The roof that you see from inside the research library is the actual roof that's on top there. And so there's just insulation, coil face insulation, and then membrane on top of that. So I was just trying to,
So if it's actively leaking, you're gonna have rot, you're gonna have mold, you're gonna have some damage, so, but that is a big ask. I don't want 25%, but I understand what you guys are trying to.
It's also under where it connects to the Quaker Meeting House, because we're gonna peel that off,
Yeah, no.
and same thing if we're.
I used to work for Body Sign Pole and I did
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
drawings and I was like, this is really cool to be working on this, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're coming in.
Yeah.
So I do have, good knowledge of the building. So,
Yeah.
Just understand that because we don't know how much funding we have, and if we have to cut contingencies from a lot of these projects, then, it would be unfair to cut it from everybody else and not you guys. So the NHA may have to pick up that part of it if there is something in excess of what the base ask is. We just want to make sure everybody understands that up front.
Right.
Because last year we were able to fund everybody except one, 100%. And this year, we're gonna have maybe $1 million less than what we had last year. We just don't know right now. So we have to be pretty careful because we have over $10 million worth of asks here, but 10, way past 10 because of one entity. So we just have to help all that out on those interviews. Anybody else have a question?
I wish there was a way to have rot not as a contingency, but I guess.
When you're dealing with historic structures, it's part of the game.
It's almost like it should have its own definition.
Just opened up a house this morning that was full of termites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to strip it all and kill all the termites, let the air and the light get to it. So
Yeah.
just never know.
Tim, did you have a question?
Well, I did, and I might be jumping ahead a little and I don't mean to, but where there's several projects here, could we think about it in the sense if we buy the notion that the contingency is very much needed because of the unknown factor, what you're trying to accomplish? Is it possible that you could phase Great Light to another year if we wanted to fund Fair Street in its entirety? I know I'm jumping ahead a little, but is there a way to think about this in that light for us to consider?
I appreciate the idea around that. I guess maybe, this is my answer, you can chime in with your own here, maybe, although my concern would be The windows on Greater Light that we'll talk about in a second are really,
Bad.
really bad.
Yeah, no, I-
Leaking coming through there and so historically significant that my one concern would be putting that part of that project off.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not questioning the merit of all of it.
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And
We're
this-
just looking at priorities within the same organization.
Yeah,
right.
I think what Tim is
Right.
after.
Yeah, okay.
And based on what you had just said, Madam Chair, you know, with a lot of asks and not enough money to go around.
Right.
Yeah.
We try to do the best for everybody. In this case with the Fair Street, there isn't any way to prioritize parts of it. Again, it's a roof,
Right.
the whole roof has to go. There are some things that we can phase, but this doesn't appear to be one of those, and neither does Greater Light. Any more questions on Fair Street?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on.
So it's kind of a lead in there to this next one.
Sorry about that.
No.
No, it's a good question.
Good question, yeah. You know, Greater Light is, I'm sure you're all familiar with the property on Howard Street. It's a property that the NHA has put quite a bit of money into over the last 10-15 years, including with support from the CPC. Again, it's heavily used. We're using it year round for various projects and programs in the community. And this is something that increasingly, as we've been looking at the property and starting to see some of the leaking that's going on, some roof concerns, as we noted in the application, particularly those windows on the large side, the large Gothic style windows that make up that entire side of the house. I mean, Ed and I were standing there during a rainstorm earlier in the year, and we were just watching the water come through, depending on the direction of the wind. So it's something we do have to address sooner rather than later in terms of fixing those windows. We put a temporary stopgap in place in terms of a storm window that's protecting it, but the rot is already there in the wood, and so the longer we let that go, you know, the more concerned we are. So we do want to address that for sure as soon as we possibly can. Also included in the application are the iron gates. That's for which the house I think is particularly known and recognized, that sort of frame that indoor-outdoor space on the back side of the house. Those are embedded directly into the ground, and so we're starting to see rust and degradation in those, and we want to make sure that we treat those, restore those, and set them into a new footing that will protect it long-term, and we save that, as well as the railings elsewhere in the house. Any other observations?
So along with the 3 Gothic style windows, Heck did more. He built some really nice storm windows. The storm windows we made so that when we do replace the Gothic windows, those exact storm windows, we can shave them down a bit and they'll fit for the new Gothic windows. So, and they have been working very well as of late. Another concern for the windows is as you drive into Greater Light, the 2 big bow windows there. I had Ben Moore and also Nate Barber take a look. I'm like, how did they do the hinges? The hinges are designed a little bit wonky, and so it just allows the wood, the frame to rot. So really to fix those hinges properly, we need to pull both window casings and rebuild the hinge system, redesign the hinge system. Those windows, they're secondhand windows. They were put in, but they had to follow the elevation of the building for the shingles and stuff. And it just doesn't work out the way they did it. And so we have a much better idea solution for that. And plus adding other, getting out our storm windows, which we put on every winter. So we have that. I talked to O'Banion and Scott Anderson about the iron work. And so not only getting those iron gates off the property, which we have a plan for, but also to O'Banion to do some light sanding because there's very minimal filigree, like very soft filigree that he would do. And then they'd ship them off to New Bedford to powder coaters, and they would do the heavy duty sandblasting and then the powder coating, which will keep the gates for 100 years. When we put them back in, what we're looking at doing is digging out and making a concrete base with J-bolts sticking up
And then doing crushed rock, some sort of rock that the gates sit in with little legs on them. So all the splashback doesn't come back and start to rot the gates again. So we're trying to be proactive, is looking into the future and trying to make these last.
100 years, that's a bold prediction.
Wow. You never know, maybe,
Right.
maybe we're on Nantucket, yeah, we're not in Utah, but yeah.
I heard you.
If you've never been up to Greater Light, it really is, the women were a little shy, but say the least. It's
Are
a
you related?
fascinating building.
Yeah.
No, I've never lived there. Badlands.
Monaghan's
Bad
distant,
mountain.
unknown Monaghan's distant.
But it's a fascinating building inside and out, and those gates are just unbelievably heavy, but they're beautiful gates. On your sheets, you will see all the money we've given to the NHA. Most of it is not, I don't know if we've ever done anything with Greater Light. Have we had one before with Greater Light? Long time
Yes,
ago?
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, but most of it, what you have on your sheets, because it's duplicated on both, is not this structure. So it's been a while since we worked with this structure.
Yeah, Chip Webster. That was the last time we did
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
full-on restoration project there.
But it's a fascinating building. The history's fascinating.
I had a paper road up in that neighborhood when I was a kid, man. That was the spookiest building I ever saw.
It's a great place to do shows. I did a lot of shows there.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons.
Yeah.
Eleanor?
Usual, $21,880, 15% contingency. So just putting it out there. Yeah. That's 15%, not 25, I guess, but you are doing some roof work.
We are, yes.
Yeah.
And you have a lot more contractors in this one than you do in the other one, so I could see,
Yes,
I could kind of see the contingency.
Yeah.
Rationalization here in a way, because every contractor will benefit something.
the roof is starting to show that mossy look to the shingles, you know what I mean? So not only that, but the elm, the big tree, the ash tree that's in front there, I've had Bartlett tree, they've trimmed all the trees up. But, looking for a roof that is architectural, heavier weight shingle, it looks nice, I mean. You know, it almost looks like slate when you put it on, so that's what we were hoping to plan out, cause that tree just keeps, can drop limbs from the very top.
Cool. Any other questions for anybody?
Nope.
No. Great. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. And then again, for the support over the years, it really has made a huge difference. Thank you.
Good season, a lot of people.
Sorry. Yes, still is. I mean, right.
No, people want
This past weekend, it's been,
Yeah.
it's been over the hundreds. Good problem to have.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Skip over this one.
Interfaith was supposed to
Skip
be
over.
next, but Janice is not here.
Skip
We
over.
wanna go to,
Is Janice coming?
she's coming.
We have the
Yeah.
Nantucket Rocket Sports.
Yeah,
I could do that.
that's what.
So we leave the table, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Our first, hearing on open space and recreation. Now, back in the day,
Who's the project manager?
Sorry.
I don't think we have. Back in the day, we weren't allowed to do, but maybe 10% of 10% of 10% for recreation, but now in open space or recreation. So we have the freedom to walk back and forth. But there were massive restrictions on how much we could spend on recreational versus open space. There's so much open space now that's to do with recreation that the state changed the legislation. All right, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Jeannie Critchley, Vice President of the club. And I'm Mark Bannister. Thanks for having us. I'm the treasurer of the NRSA, also on the pickleball committee. And over the last few months have been on the construction committee for this expansion project we've been working on. That is basically been members of the NRSA, including Tom and Land Bank. We've been working very closely with the Land Bank. And also CHA, which is the design firm that we've hired that is doing the architectural drawing and the construction plans for the project. Jeannie has laryngitis, you're getting over laryngitis, so she can answer questions, but I'll do most of the talking. So maybe a brief introduction of where we are now with the club. The popularity, you probably know this, but pickleball has been exploding in growth. There's 45 million players across the US.
Hold on 1 second, just note in the record that Tom recused himself.
And me,
Oh, and Eleanor, okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah. Incidentally, on the construction committee, we worked very closely with Eleanor and Rachel in all. We have a weekly meeting every Friday at 2 o'clock, so it's really been moving forward. But the popularity has been growing, and the courts that are at 82 Hinsdale have become a real center of activity on the island. There is a small membership, but it's open to the public, and we get tons of guests coming, both year round and summer people. A lot of people come up from the warm weather and play pickleball, play at our courts. In fact, this year, for the fiscal year, between membership fees and guest fees, we're taking in about 250,000. So that's grown a lot. So the courts are very popular. Demand is high, and it's really, I don't know, I'm sure some of you have been over there, but it's a real community feeling over there of both. I think it's a place where both year round and summer people are together, and we always feel it's the best bargain in town. A guest can, for $15, a guest fee is for an hour and a half. So one court, $60, and it's definitely oversubscribed. We've also increased programming a lot, and part of this expansion will allow us to do it more. We have tournaments. I happen to run the tournaments for the pickleball. And then we did this year some more clinics that are open. They're all, open to both members and non-members. We have open play. We've also worked with Strong Winds, where we've given them some court time. And with the new courts, we can expand that. And we did some stuff with the senior center where some seniors came over for some free novice clinics that we're running. So the place is really booming, and we're excited about this project. So in terms of, I'll stop there. So just keep going. Any questions on that before I keep going? Okay.
How many courts do you have?
Right now we have 4 paddle courts and 4 pickleball courts. And for those of you who don't know, pickleball is generally sort of a 3-season sport. You play when the weather's warmer. Right now it's kind of a crossover where people are still playing pickleball. And the platform tennis has started. But the club, this is actually the 50th year of the club. It started with, I think,
1974.
Yeah. Couple courts, they were over off Pulpus Road, and then they were moved over. Then it became 4 paddle courts. At that time, the membership was 74 or 75 people. Once we added pickleball, which has only been in the last, few years, that's when the interest really exploded.
Yeah.
This year, for the first time, we're encouraging a winter membership for platform tennis. The idea of that is it's really designed it's for year-round residents, and we're definitely gearing it towards sort of try to get, younger men and women involved in the sport. And we just went out with that. We have 40 people wanting to come and do that. So that's good. So the platform tennis, which has been around forever there, is also growing.
And we have things like our club championships are the children of our ex-members.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I'm playing with people that I played with their parents. We're in the real transition, and we're trying to make sure that transition continues, that it's local and younger families. So we're back at the phase, like when I first joined, where there were kids running around all over the place, and now we have the those people's kids, so the grandkids are running around while people are playing too, and the real limit to this expansion has to do with the amount of courts we have. If we have too many more people, then people who paid for access don't have the chance to get on the courts. We want to keep the quality of the experience. And that's one of the main reasons for this expansion.
Yeah, but to focus on that, it's, to be a member there really gives you really only two things. It's the ability to reserve a court a little further in advance than just a non-member. And also some tournaments, because of space limitations, are open to members. Besides that, the courts are, you know, if you go during the summer in August, pickleball courts from 7:30 till 8 at night, well, to 9, actually, we have lights, but we agreed with the neighbors that we wouldn't play past 9. The courts are occupied, except when it's raining. So it's a really great place and a kind of a gathering place for a lot of people that come to the island. The other thing is, it's the only place on the island that there is public access to platform tennis and pickleball. So that's kind of important and it keeps us busy. Maybe I'll talk about where we are now, because I know, you know, Jeannie's been before this committee. In the past when,
Let the record reflect that Thomas, now.
was it something I said, Tom, or?
No, he's got another meeting.
Okay. So when Jeannie came, I know you've been generous and we've had, you know, 2 grants already from your, committee. What we had was really more of a concept, and now we have a concrete plan that we are going forward with now. And the limitation is really how much money we have to work with. So I mentioned we've had the weekly meetings. And we are, I would say, 98% done with the design phase with CHA. Next, or this weekend coming up, we have a meeting with the membership that's open to the public. We do that at the courts to present the final plan. And then working with the land bank, we are doing public outreach. So on November 7th, we have a Zoom call, November 9th, an in-person meeting at the courts to basically show anyone who wants to come and is interested and has any questions about the what we're doing. We have basically a master plan that we are doing in phases, but phase 1 is what we're focused on now. And phase 2 and phase 3 may or may not happen. But phase 1 is what we're focused on. And depending on the funds we get from our ask here, it'll include at a minimum 4 new pickleball courts, enhanced parking with handicap spots, ADA accessible courts, and potentially 2 padel courts. Now, padel is PADEL. It's a sport different than platform tennis, different than pickleball. It's like the second biggest largest growing sport in the country.
PADL?
PADEL. The courts, I would say the courts are, it's kind of a cross between, I'd say, racquetball, tennis, and platform tennis.
It's insane.
It's a very, if you ever Google on YouTube, it's a very fun sport, and it is originally played mostly in places like Argentina and Spain, but is growing a lot. Many clubs are putting in courts. So we, at the NRSA, we kind of want to stick with, you know, if we become sort of the place where people can play platform tennis, pickleball, and padel, that's kind of what we want to become as the place on the island where people can come.
What are phase 2 and 3?
Phase two and 3 would be basically anything of that first plan that doesn't get done. We are considering a 5th platform tennis court because the demand is high there, particularly because that's geared towards year-round people, mostly that are working the courts at night, get very busy. And then we talked about stuff where we put in, you know, like a volleyball, like any outdoor recreation. We did consider tennis at one point, and I
We
would.
talked about that here, actually.
Yeah, we did. put that, I would say, on the back burner. That could be phase 2 or phase 3. The reason being is we feel that people do have other places to play on the island, tennis. Tennis is also, the courts, the hard true courts are actually they're kind of expensive to build and they're really hard to maintain. So we are, as of now, a volunteer organization, and we really don't want to be in a situation where we're, have a lot of high maintenance. I mean, we do it now, we have the money, the revenues to do it, but we've decided not to bring in tennis courts at the time.
Explain what you are doing with the 356,000 that you have access to now as of July 1 that we gave you last year.
Okay, so there's no, the 350, are you talking about the expenses that we've already incurred?
No, we gave you, as of July 1 this year, 356,000 as a town meeting. And that was partial payment because we couldn't give you the full amount. But what are you gonna use that money for? Are you gonna stockpile it and see what you get this year and
It's
continue
what,
to stockpile?
yes, so it is what we spent,
Yeah.
what bills we have coming in.
There are some money we've spent on sort of CHA, the design
that's what I
firm.
figured.
There's some money that was spent on clearing of the land and, some site work. But
Okay.
generally, think of this as we've been stockpiling money. We've come for another grant. Once we get that, assuming, we do get some of that, that will be the amount of money we use for this project, and that will determine what phase 1 is.
Okay. Because before they ask questions, we have a limited amount of money. We don't have as much money as last year,
Okay,
but we gave you what was left for open, for space recreation. That was on 356,000 and change. And we have over $10 million worth of requests this year. So it would be a case of if we were able to give them money, because we have to give 10%, minimum 10% of whatever we get from the state and our local fees in there. It might not be $1 million. It may be again around 300,000, given what we're getting from the state. And again, it'd be another situation of stockpiling, but at least it'll keep you guys going, correct?
But, the stockpiling theoretically we'll be able to start using that money because as Mark was just saying, the planning is 98% done. It'll go to procurement and by late spring, hopefully we'll be in construction if things were to go smoothly.
Okay, because you can't get this next thing until next July.
Right.
So it is phasing out just because.
Yes.
right. We do have, the club has some money, and we have also a loan that we can take out money of 200,000 to pay bills until we get that.
In between.
So
Cover us for something.
But just, I guess, to be clear on this. Totally understand the amount of requests you have for the money. Whatever we get here is, we view this as getting us this phase 1 completed.
Further down the road.
And, so we will do what we are gonna do in phase 1, because this is, what we're hoping to do is have, go through these meetings. We really have approvals, but the land bank who, owns the land and we work closely with has final say on our design. And we've tailored a lot to like keeping, open space as much as possible, a few less.
Impressed.
Yeah, but once that happens, this is moving forward. We'll have to go through the procurement process. And so I guess what I'm saying is there's other things we might do down the road, but this gets us the project going and started.
Have you done any fundraising on your own for this?
We haven't. You talked about that. I looked into that. We're a 501c7. And which makes it harder because there's a limit on how much money we can take relative to our revenues, and also that's not tax deductible. So it's come up in our meetings of what it would take to switch to a 501c3, but that's not in the near future.
Okay, that's just something you should think about.
Yeah.
Because it gives you more flexibility on raising funds and donations and stuff. It's tax deductible at that point.
Yeah.
And you can always add an educational component to it, which even gives you more latitude. All right, anybody have any questions? Neville?
Linda asked, the other question I was gonna ask about the $980,000 that you have, is that part of phase 1, 2, or 3? You also have that from us, from fiscal year 23.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look down the page with that grant. And the fiscal year 25 grant, which is 356,000, after expenses, we have 1.179 million left.
Yes.
The value we have in the cost of phase 1, in an ideal world, it's $2.1 million. So whatever we get now on top of that 1.179 million, we've set this up. I can't say it's à la carte because a lot of this has to be done, the parking and the ADA accessibility, but we will eliminate what we need to eliminate to get this project done.
I asked this question before, so. I don't know how else to ask it, so. If you don't get all the money that you are requesting now, would you continue to stockpile money so you can finish your project? Stockpile monies that you get from us, finish your project?
Okay,
No, the project's starting.
Yeah,
It's starting.
the project, one way or another, this project is going forward in phase 1.
But you understand what I'm saying, but you have all this money left over from previous grants
Yeah,
that you haven't used, going back to fiscal year 21, actually.
Yeah.
Right, so you have all that money, so, and I know Linda was asking something about stockpiling monies.
right.
So is that all part of that phase 1, 2, and 3 that you're talking about?
Everything that we've gotten so far and what we're asking for now is phase 1.
It's all phase
It's
1.
all phase
phase
1.
2.1 million is.
So from the very
Yes,
beginning,
yes.
from the very beginning, it's all phase 1.
This is phase
So,
1.
and even this new one that you have, that's part of phase 1.
That's
Yeah.
part of phase 1.
Okay.
Your
And
objective is to get phase 1, which is the courts, the infrastructure.
That's the top priority.
yes,
That's to get it all up and running and we're
Mhm.
done, and then 2 and 3 are
2 and 3 are,
gravy, basically.
we didn't want to get partway through something and then have to go back to a planning phase. We wanted to have a big picture.
Yeah.
And
Makes
as
sense.
Mark also mentioned, we're a volunteer board, so 3-4 years from now, I won't be on the board. Mark may be on, we wanted something that existed past the individual humans that may be
Perpetuate itself.
participating. And it's something we've talked through with the members and people in this community so that it's a big picture project, not half a dozen people's idea of what we should be doing.
So the only reason why I'm asking, I'm just gonna explain
Sure.
my thinking on
okay,
it. And I know how we work here. I like us to do projects, and we do our projects, see it go forward, the money is used, or most of the money is used. And then the client comes back and asks more to get to the next phase. But I'm seeing here a lot of money being piled up. So I'm wondering, did you do this on purpose or did you just not get to that phase? And I know last year we could not, I know we were definitely trying to get you more money, but the money that we gave you was all that we could give you.
Right.
Last year, I know we had a big old thing about that. Going forward, I would like to see you use the money up as quick, as much as you.
but I
You understand?
assure you, whatever you
Started
give
to
us
use the
now,
money.
Yeah, I
this is
understand,
happening.
I understand what you're saying,
And we are,
but
an ideal timeline is we go for procurement.
Yeah.
We get the bids back. And, I mean, the ground's already been cleared and we are doing this construction project in the spring.
Right.
That, everything takes longer, procurement, I'm not so familiar with the process, but I know it adds, it adds 30% costs, but it also takes time. The land bank is clearly responsible, has a lot of experience in that, and it's gonna help us with that process.
then again, I'm not
Yeah.
faulting you in any kind of way. If I fault anyone, just to keep us up on what's going on,
For sure.
then I'll do with our fault with the project manager. Who's the project manager?
Was Dawn.
So what I'm saying is, this is less at this point
Yeah.
stockpiling, and this is more at the end, when we hear back, we're
Mhm.
gonna know what we're gonna do
I
in phase
understand,
1.
I understand.
You've already expended some funding into the CHA anyway,
Yes.
so you got bills coming in that we're gonna have to start paying, so.
That, we are like right there on things actually happening. We've gone through
Yeah.
such a involved. I personally never been involved in anything as large as what we're doing at the land bank, and there's just so many more hoops and phases and things that we had to do, plus COVID, since this, all started, that it's just, we are chomping at the bit to see something visibly happening as well. And so are all the people in our community who've been, patiently waiting.
Well, I have a question, the land bank representative may be able to answer this, you're a 501(c)(7), which is a nonprofit organization, well, it's got other things in this, in a C3. Why do you have to go through prevailing wage and procurement? I've dealt with this before on town land, but a private entity, which did not have to go through procurement and prevailing wage and all the rest of that, which adds incrementally to what you're paying for.
Yeah.
We do have to go recheck with our.
Because you own the land?
Yep.
Okay, because I've dealt with this before where it's a municipal versus a private, it's a combination, it's a public-private partnership. And they didn't have to do it. We've had to dealt with this at the housing authority.
This is kind of why, if I may.
Yeah.
Speaking as a land bank representative, to sort of address what Neville's very good question is, that the prolongation, the protracted process was protracted because they were all set to go, and then we're like, no, this has to undergo procurement. So that set them back a little bit in terms of, they would have been able to start the project if we hadn't had to deal with all the procurement. So I had to procure through an RFP, the designer, right? I did that took time to get the process going. So there have been unforeseen delays in the process, but we are completely on track now. And as he said, God willing, I'll have the IFB out in about a month or two. Project should start March.
That's great.
That's the goal. And as we all like to say, in an ideal world, procurement is its own beast.
I'm
But
only,
I'm just curious
sorry.
about that, because I dealt with a public-private thing before, where the private 501(c)(3) did not have to do prevailing wage and go through procurement, even though there was a public entity involved.
Yeah.
So I was very surprised that they had to do all that over the last 2 years, because that was just something I hadn't come across before.
Yeah.
Neville?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and another thing that happens, I was on Park and Rec when we got all of that land next door, and you guys weren't even there yet. So I know what we had to go through just to get our fields built.
Right.
So we were going through all
Oh, the
that
no
process.
beer.
We also got the money
Yeah,
from the
nobody here. I was involved
we also
with
got
that.
the money from CPC.
Yeah.
So we also know what CPC had put us through. We had to go use the money up, come back and get more. And I was on CPC at the time. So that's why I'm asking these questions.
Okay.
So that, it doesn't get too, like 3 years down the line, I'm still seeing 980,000, 300 and the million or whatever you're gonna get this year.
No, we're ready to go.
There you go. But I also know that you were very upfront when this first came in, that this was going to be a multi-year
Yes.
ask. Because at no time did we have all the money to ever give you everything to get going. So we knew this was gonna be a phased year after year after year thing. Some things like the churches have come in year after year after year after year because they know they had to phase it. Congo Church in particular, my church. So this isn't unusual. It's just that the asks are fairly sizable because of the sheer scope and cost of this project and the procurement process and that prevailing wage and everything. So Tim?
So I think I want to ask a question that Neville asked, but maybe in a different
Sure.
way. So I think looking at the proposal that you gave us, which was very detailed. And I see that we're in the 2.1 in an ideal world for Plan A.
Sure.
So given what our chair has said, that we've got a tremendous amount of asks and just a limited amount of money. I guess I would like to ask you, and I haven't seen it yet, but what would your ideal plan B be? So if we couldn't help you get to 2.1, is there a number below that you'd like to shoot for? So it gives us more of an educated guess than just giving you a pot of money that happens to be 50,000 short of what you need. And I know you've said several times that you'll do whatever you can
Yes.
do. But do you have like a Plan B target that we could at least have rolling around?
Our plan B would be to eliminate the padel courts.
So that would take 450.
That's 480. Um,
Or, okay,
so
that's very helpful for us.
So we could take 480 off the million you've asked for right now.
no, if we have,
I thought that was out further.
if we have,
It's 480 off of the 2.1, right?
it's 480 off of the 2.1. I mean, there's other things in there that are not as big numbers, but,
And I'm not saying we're not gonna try to fund.
No, but
total,
we understand with that you have many people asking for
Yeah.
valuable things,
Yeah.
you know, important things. We know we're not the only thing.
Sure.
And that part, that, I think why Mark keeps saying that we'll work with whatever you give us is because we understand that this is a community thing and that there are many community needs and whatever you're able to help us with, we're appreciative of.
so maybe in rough numbers, the total cost that we have of this project. And this is phase one, and phase one would be, 85% of what we would be doing over there anyway. The other stuff is phase two and phase three is down the road. So that's say 2.1. If we take 480 off that, roughly 500,000. We get to, basically 1.6 million.
We're getting there.
Yeah, and we have
1.07.
Madam Chair?
1.17.
Jesse?
I just am curious, I'm looking at the different site plans you have here, and the one that's in color, I'm just trying to basically understand what is phase one.
So these are the pickle courts that exist right
Yeah,
now. These are the 4 new ones.
yeah,
We've just, these are where the paddle courts, so sort of take that off. And,
but
all,
that is part of phase one, because that's part
well,
of,
but it's what we just said, like we,
Right, but
it could be pushed back, but. And then this whole area does not exist yet. All we have right now
is that,
is this little bit of parking, which is already maxed out and
right?
annoying to the neighbors. So the parking, the 4 new pickle courts are the structures that would be necessary for those are the tippy top of the priority list.
But under the 2.1 phase one, you have also the padel courts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
are,
and then this grass,
That's open,
that's just up, open space.
that's a phase 2.
Well, that's a paddle, that's an extra paddle. tent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
that's
some
okay.
point. an
And then-
extra paddle
This is an
court.
extra paddle court.
and the extra paddle court up by the parking, that's
Mhm.
part of phase two?
Yes, and that's just to show that because that's, if.
So we know where it would
We're
go.
gonna do that, we'd probably do it in that area marked W.
And then on the far back, you have, the sand volleyball court and the grass
That's all
parking.
Phase 2 and
That's
3.
phase 2 and 3, and we've left the tennis courts shaded in there.
Oh, I see,
But
yeah,
that's-
okay.
That's just an overall
And then
plan.
the
That's an
R,
overall
that's
plan.
restrooms?
Yeah.
And that would be part of phase one?
No,
2.
that's phase 2, because we have them there and that's pretty expensive to run all the, we just don't feel it's necessary as part of the first one.
So it's basically the pickle courts, the parking area. And the structural things that need to go to make that happen that are the.
Yeah, the handicap accessibility.
Yes.
Yeah,
Something,
Yes.
not that. D, and that's an addition, that's probably part of this
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
And this D is.
That's just landscaping.
which one?
The brown is,
Is that a new platform for the existing forecourts?
Yes,
Okay,
and
that's a relatively low expense, but also something that's not crucial to phase
Okay.
one.
Yeah, we gotta go.
okay. All right,
you're good.
well, I just.
We're
wanted to
asking
have
the
an
questions.
understanding.
It's a loose schedule.
Okay, all right, thank you.
is that helpful?
Yeah, it is.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you for
time.
your time.
There's only you and one other small one on open space. This is what happened to you guys last year.
Fingers and toes
The
crossed.
10% has to be allocated, but
Okay, thank you.
thank you guys. I have a pickleball. I don't, it doesn't.
You get over that.
You know where to find us.
I know.
This is.
This is, this is our hut right now.
Spend another.
Yeah, I've had shoulder surgery.
Oh,
Yes, this is, so I don't know where that is, and it's anywhere, and this I don't have. You know what, it's very. I have a meeting.
Paddles like, balls like.
Yes, it does, which is nice, I don't have to run around. Over here. You ready? Hello, everybody. I guess you're not retired. Nope, not anything soon. You? We want you to retire in the first. Anyway, I just have some expenses in my house, so I think I'll be moving. Okay. Everybody knows Janice, you know everybody at the table. Let's Jesse do. So, Jesse, Joe, Tim, Neville, Eleanor.
Okay, so, I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. I know we're running a little late. And I was allocated 15 minutes, so here we go. For the record, my name is
15 minutes
Janice.
or less.
There we go. Right. My name is Janice Carrero, Executive Director for Nantucket Food, Fuel, and Rental Assistance. And this grant is exclusively for the rental assistance program. We have been a customer client of the CPC for many years, very appreciative of what you have given us. In a nutshell, this program wouldn't exist without you. Very simply, we provide what we call short-term rental assistance, meaning that it is not permanent. For folks who are facing a financial difficulty, either because of loss of income, sickness, illness, we've seen these on limited income. Last year, in this current year, you have given us $360,000 to operate with. We are asking for what we believe is a modest increase of 20,000 to deal with fiscal year 26. You know, just as a history, in fiscal year 24, which we have just ended and you have just ended, you gave us 315,000 and we paid out 420,000 in rents. That 315,000 has now been completely exhausted. It is gone. We are now operating in fiscal year 25, which is the 360. That was a significant increase because of the blossoming of need on the island coming out of COVID and with the rising economy. We continue to see that, and we think but we're a little bit uncertain as to how bad the economy will be, what will happen in the near future. So we're thinking there's going to be a modest increase in fiscal year 26. Fiscal year 25, we're anticipating paying out 445,000 in rental assistance, of which 360 is coming from you. Some of that is for operation. And we're anticipating 465,000 for fiscal year 26. So there's the $20,000 difference. Just some notes that I've made. While the number of households that we service have not increased significantly, the amount of money we pay in rent has, and that's just a factor in the rising cost of living on the island. Last year, a third of our households were new. They'd never come to us before. That means 2/3 of them were not, which to me is an indication of evidence of the continued struggle that people at the 80% and lower AMI have to survive on the island. That especially affected the sick and the injured, which were 40% of our payout last year. And that group, if they lose even 2 weeks or 3 weeks of income because of their illness, they can't pay the rent. So we're jumping in and paying it during that period of time. The elderly are consistently around 15 to 20%, but they require more continued assistance because if they're particularly if they're living on a limited Social Security income, that income doesn't increase significantly from year to year. I think this year it's going to be a 2.5% increase. You can bet their rents are going to be more than that. And I think lastly, I would say that, you know, based on the current
AMI, at 80% AMI for the Nantucket County. It takes an hourly wage of $52.71 to be considered of being able to live at that 80% AMI. The people we are servicing, the housekeepers, the landscapers, some of the retail clerks, a variety of receptionists, and that they're not making $52.71 an hour. So that's why we're here, and that's why we need you to be with us.
Explain,
10 minutes.
but explain for some people who don't know what you do with the landlords and the legal units and stuff like
Okay,
that.
well, first of all the payments are made directly to the owners of the house, not necessarily who the tenant might think is the landlord.
The actual owner of the
It actually goes to the owner of the house. And that is to ensure that we are not creating a situation where there are illegal sublets, or the owner doesn't even know that the tenant who holds the lease is actually subletting out to other people, because when that person finds out, not only does that person go, but all of the people we've assisted go with them. So we pay only the landlord. We will only pay for a unit that meets basic safety and health standards.
Unit.
And
So-
year-round residents,
Scott?
year-round residents.
Yes, they're all year-round residents. They all, with very few exceptions, have lived here a minimum of 2 years. We won't generally look at someone that less than 2 years unless they're coming to the island with a contracted employment that says they will be employed here more than a year. There's generally hospital workers, some town, and some of the bigger industries which contract people for more than yearly basis. But other than that, you need to demonstrate that you are going to be a resident of the island and you're here, your commitment is to the island long-term. We're not helping seasonal folks or transient folks. They need to find another source of help, or they need to realize they can't.
You have a limit per
Can't be the island.
situation, don't you?
Yes, for a non-senior or non-sick and injured, it's around 7,000 a year. So that, might equate to, we'll pay a half of the rent, or we'll pay a third of the rent and they pay the other. And for the sick and injured, we raised it to 9,000 to 10,000 because some of those situations are pretty dire. And some of the recuperation periods are pretty long, so the chance of them to be able to get back into the employment field is far less than it would be for a seasonal worker who we try very hard to get them to understand, even if it's $5 or $10 or $15, you've got to prepare for a time when you're not employed. But the sad fact of the island is there's a significant population on the island that is not eligible for unemployment.
There's, the reason why the numbers you'll see where they've been raised is because back in the day, the limit was like 2,500 or something. The
Yes.
rents are much cheaper.
Yeah, they were.
But it's gone up dramatically. We've told her repeatedly over time to ask for more money every year because they would run out in March, type of thing. So we've asked her to raise it because the rents have raised. The pay hasn't necessarily been commensurate with the rental raises. And to avoid the program running out of money, we've asked her to bump it. They were very reluctant to bump it. They would like 5,000 here, 10,000 here. But that's why you've seen a dramatic increase in what they've been asking for, is because everything else has gone up. More people needed help, especially during COVID. So we've been pushing this particular entity to raise the funding because it's just wasn't meeting the need. And when you run out of money in like March and you still can't get to July 1, that became a real issue for a lot of people because they weren't working yet. So there's been a lot more need. And the whole situation on cost of living here has been ridiculously high. So her $20,000 increment was just something we've been pushing all along, so.
And again, I want to emphasize, you are not paying 100% of the rents.
Right, tell 'em-
We go out and get
Yeah.
other grants and donations to fill that gap. We think it would be unfair to ask you to pay for 100%.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask.
Although
Just
we could
explain
use,
that.
we could use it, but
Explain the other funding. There are
the
other funding
there are-
sources.
there are other funds, we go to. we
Contract
go-
review, which I'm on, you've gone
Right.
there.
Right, and there are grants and private grants, foundations, donations. We significantly increased our fundraising ability. But we need a steady base that we feel we can come back to year after year. While we have some long-term grantors, grants. Other things come aboard and their eyes sent to other things. And then so, well, we gave you 25,000 last year, but we're going to give you 10 this year because we want to also do X. We know that in housing, you have a commitment to housing, so we can look for a base, and that's what we're looking for. It's a significant base, I'm not going to argue that.
I don't think there's anything we do that's more important than funding your organization.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud that the CPC, Linda, you're right. If you look back 10 years, you can see where you were and when you are now. That's not an accident. The CPC has been really trying to fund you at the level that you really need. So we're very grateful. You do great work. Did I hear you correctly that it's 52.71 per hour in order to make 80% of AMI?
For family of four.
Wow.
It's insanity.
And most of our people are at the 50 to 60% AMI range there. I mean, we do have some at 80%, and there may be an occasion we may help someone at more than 80%, but you have to believe that is, they're facing a tragedy
Yeah.
that they cannot come out of.
Is that
So we're
single
open to that.
household income or dual household?
It's a household income.
No, but
That's two parents.
two parents.
Correct,
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's a family of four, however they get the income,
Has to
and many
bring that
incomes, it
income.
may be
Got it.
one, it may be two.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's very worthwhile because when they first came to us, it was being done off of Georgia Snell's kitchen table. And the reason why there's a salary component, which you will rarely see in any of the other ones that we have, is because we demanded if we were going to continue to fund it. You'll see there's a couple of years where we didn't, that they had to have an organization, they had to have a director, and we forced that issue. Which is why this is one of the only ones you'll see that has its actual salary component. Because in order to run this program, you have to have Janice position.
Yeah, I would look at it more, not so much as a salary, because no part of the administrative piece of my work is put into the CPC. It is the production it takes
To do the
to
work.
do that work.
Yeah.
So it's the same as if you were funding a church that needed reshingling. You aren't gonna pay for just the shingles, you're gonna pay for the contractor to put the shingling on. And so that's the piece that you're paying for, but the administrative stuff, doing this, paying bills, that's not part of that piece.
But we wanted to get it organized, we wanted to get it down because we found that we were paying for some people on the housing authority, already subsidized. We found that they were paying more or less for other people. They were paying for units that weren't legal. Janice, during COVID, I was able to get in the billing department, so I was helping her do the research on who owns it, what was it a legal unit, things like that. She's very careful about this stuff, so it's very well under control, and so the money is very well spent.
Yeah, the only two projects we did that for in that way was you and Housing Nantucket. Which, was Housing Nantucket, but Housing Nantucket came and they said the only one who would like us to do it, they gave us a timeline. And you were the only one that Housing Nantucket said it was self-sufficient.
They collect rents and they have state, state.
We still have
What can I tell you?
way.
Yeah.
Okey-doke.
Okay,
Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for anybody? Okay,
Thanks.
okay,
Yep.
Nancy, you're up. While Nancy's getting settled, the housing authority lost a longtime employee. She went to work somewhere else. And the housing authority, which I'm on, had to punt. And we contracted through the state, okayed it, We contracted with Nancy's office and you'll find all that. But we, so the housing authority doesn't have staff here. We do have a maintenance guy who lives on the site with his family. But they come over every week and they handle all of the administrative stuff, the reporting, and we are a well-oiled machine now. We weren't before. So everything's getting done correctly, and Nancy has now taken over all the grants that we have given them for different buildings. And it's done under historic preservation, which is something that Ken worked out with the state. And so Nancy is here now.
Thank you. Nancy Friend, Executive Director of Dennis Housing Authority, and we manage Nantucket Housing Authority as well. Here today regarding building envelope preservation for 8 Benjamin Drive. This is my Comet Village 1, which is a state subsidized public housing development. We have consists of 12 family duplex units, 2-story, and then we have 10 elderly duplex units as well. This particular grant that we're requesting for fiscal year 26 in the amount of $341,030. This is for 8 Benjamin Drive. It's the entire building envelope, windows, siding, doors, roofs, all of it. The amount of money that we receive from the state because of the size of the portfolio is minimal. So we do have to look for outside funding, and that's why we come to the CPC requesting such. The plus to any monies that we get from the CPC is that I can request additional funding through the state for the HILAP, which is the it's a HILAP funding, it's high leverage funding through the state for preservation of state units. So whatever we may get granted from the CPC gives us another 1.5 times that amount. So for instance, the fiscal year 23 grant that we received in the amount of $342,000, we just received a grant from the state for the HILAP in the amount of just shy of $514,000.
Wow.
So your 342 adds another 514, which enables us to do at least another entire building, perhaps more. And we're looking at more actually with this. That particular project, it was just approved to go out to bid. So it's going out to bid next week, actually. Bids will be due in mid-November. So we're hoping that piece will enable us to do 3, maybe more. And if anytime you get CPC money, it's so much easier to get state leverage funding from that source. So that's it's a great thing. It took a while to get it, but
Yeah.
We're going after 24 also.
23 and now 26.
Yeah. We're going to 20.
Is that money in place still?
It is.
The legislature funded that?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
So it's a great piece to be able to take this funding and, 1.5 times that to, we're just shy of $900,000 now for this project. And we would do the same for the fiscal year 26. So which will enable us, not 1 unit or 1 building with 2 units, will enable us to do probably 2 or 3 buildings, which is 4 or 6 units.
It's the only one we have that has matching funds,
Yeah.
basically. We used to ask for that years ago. And it's so difficult for people to get matching funds back at the very beginning, that we stopped asking that. But this just came to light because of Nancy brought that to the housing authority's attention and finally.
Yeah,
Well, there we go.
yeah.
Yeah, and the state is really, as you know, they're really on the road for housing right now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a great opportunity to take advantage of that. And this highlight preservation funding is a great piece to use alongside of this.
Well, that puts a great big asterisk next to your application.
What is the biggest bang?
Yeah.
And
No
Here's the
kidding,
biggest
right?
bang for your buck, right there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. So,
Amazing.
and we
previously, before I came on, we've been granted about $607,000 previously in CPC funding. And we were able to complete 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 Maya Comet Road, the full building envelope. So we're just continuing on with these other buildings that need to be done as well to hopefully complete our portfolio.
And to give you an idea, the housing authority started being formed on that property in my comment in 83. So the elderly units were among the first units, as you know, the ones along the road in 84, 85, along with a lot of these duplexes and stuff. And so they're suffering. The elderly units are suffering, I can tell you that personally. Yeah.
And the one that went out to bid right now, it's actually encompassing, because of these extra fundings, we're encompassing family and elderly units. So that's a combination that we're doing.
So it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And the funding that has come to the housing authority in the past has been a great boon to us, especially now that Nancy figured out how to leverage that money.
Yeah.
Just curious, where do the people stay while things are under renovation?
It's all exterior, so they're able to stay in their units. So it's, windows, siding, doors. There's a lot of coordination with the tenants, but our goal is to keep them in place, and we've been successful with that.
And when there's a turnover, we've rehabbed the units before we put new people in them, new floors, new painting, new this, new that. So we've been able to rehab them as people move out of these units and move into other housing.
I know it's probably not germane, but I'd love to ask you, being from Dennis, is the commitment that Nantucket CPC makes to their housing program, does Dennis other towns, do they do similar things?
They do similar things. Each town, community preservation is a little bit different, but yes, they do. In fact, in Dennis last year, I did go to our CPC for a rental assistance program, and we were granted about, 2 pieces. Some of it was CPC, and then CDBG, we also got additional funding, but it totaled like $450,000 for a rental assistance program as well. But we've also done this in the past for this type of thing. The difference from Nantucket to Dennis is that based on the size of your portfolio with the state, your capital funds increase the larger your portfolio is, the smaller your portfolio is, you get minimal capital funds. So in Nantucket, it's very challenging because it's a small portfolio, so you don't get a lot of funds to do this type of thing from the state.
Everything that's done on a site has to be approved by the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil, did you have some?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to my usual, sorry. And I fully support the project. This is something you weren't in prior, but they're on page, I guess, 17. You have contingencies built in on 2 different things. Contingency for unforeseen conditions, $19,500. And then beneath that, in the grand total, change order contingencies 10%, which I understand in procurement, you have to build that in. So there's 22,965 in contingencies and 19,500 in contingency built into your overall estimate. So can you explain? We don't typically, as has been said prior, cover contingencies with CPC funds.
I don't think, because the project is gonna be much bigger than this, I can certainly understand that. But contingencies would be things that we wouldn't anticipate that may come up. You're re-shingling the roof, you get the shingles off, you find that it's rotted, so we have to replace the entire roof, not just the shingles. Something to that aspect would be something that would be covered in something like this. But our goal, like I said, is to do more than just this project, so I don't think that 300, we're looking at our amount is, for what we're planning, is $901,290. So I don't think if there's any contingencies, they may not actually be coming from CPC funding.
Okay, because it is built into your total of your ask.
Right. And we have to build that in because we took a specific unit and we do it based on unit. So that's why it is in there. I don't know if that helps and explains it at all.
It does to an extent. Generally speaking, we don't usually buy into 501c3s,
Okay.
contingency funds, and other people that have the ability to fundraise, which the housing authority is not allowed to do. So the contingency in a restricted environment like, state and federal, we've got two, we have a state, section, we have a federal section. Contingency may not be out of the question on something that has limited ability to get any other funding.
But there's two contingencies. That's kind of what I'm pointing at, like,
Yeah.
19,500 in the soft costs or other costs rather. And then the 10% change order contingency, which is 22 and change. So that's just pulling it up.
Maybe
I-
that's
I
something in
think
the,
Sorry, Vince.
in the future that, you know, we can kind of look at this and I can talk to our project manager and say, you know, we can't build that into any requests.
I mean, it makes sense for budgeting. I certainly understand it.
Yeah.
So it's something we're gonna have to decide what to do with it, but their ability to raise other funds is no. Period. We're under strict, everything we do has to be approved by the state. The federal project's a little different, but the state, this is all state
This is-
project, and we're been under the gun from the state for a long time. Sometimes they'll work with us and sometimes they don't want to hear from us. Any other questions?
Well, I was just gonna say, I appreciate so much, Ellen, pointing these out to us on the different applications. I appreciate that. In this particular case, it's actually a win-win because the higher the total, the more high reimbursement we get. So in this particular case, there's a benefit to actually having it in there. I just point that out for the record. That's
Yeah.
all. Not disagreeing with the premise.
But if we did reduce it, that would reduce the other grant that we could.
Correct, yeah. Correct.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
I wish I didn't, I wish you had not explained it that way. I would feel a lot better with the way you explained it.
But that is a
Well,
character.
hey, you just get stuck with the money. But I don't have problems with contingencies in historic, on our historic projects as much as some people may, because they are historic. And you're right, you never know what you're gonna find when you remove something. So, so I don't mind it in historic, historic projects, but any other, I would.
I don't have a problem with them. I'm just
Yeah.
trying for
Yeah.
No, that's.
continuity. I think it's
You-
important to have consistency.
You gotta be consistent.
I love it, Al. Don't
Because
stop.
there are some fees that we simply don't pay for. This is one of those nebulous ones, but there are other things we just don't pay for, like your meals. Or your lodging, or, certain things like that, or taxi fares, there's all kinds of stupid little stuff that we don't pay for. That can add up when you're dealing with 13 or, 18, whatever they were last year.
Well, we've had contingencies for organizations that duly have the funds that they could
They
pay.
could cover it. Yeah.
And so I think there's a distinction between those that have horsepower and those that don't.
Yes.
So,
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Nice to meet you.
I have to take him up to the hospital for an MRI. I have to be 1:45, so I'm gonna take him up early and then come to you. Perfect. Is anybody not coming?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing well on time, guys. Wow. Come on up. Okay. We have been involved with NISDA for quite a while.
Yes,
Such a unique situation out there.
it is.
We wanted, the past ones have been plainly the barn and the silos. Have anybody seen the silo work? It's just unreal. They brought the group up from the people that do the silo work. And they were all over those things. It's been the silo, it's been the barn, it's been a couple of other things. Go ahead.
The long shed, yes.
Yeah, the long shed.
Linda, I have a correction that I think everybody should see. It's a really important one.
Okay.
That was a typo.
Okay.
And then, so this is for everybody if they want it, and then this is an update on the program.
Okay, good. Right, wait till Tim gets back to this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we got him.
Then Glenna should get these.
Sure, yeah, oh, the extras, yeah.
A typo. A shocking typo.
Typo.
Yeah.
It was, it was.
Oh,
It's
just
in
on
the original
that.
grant.
Oh, just on the grant itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you already got that.
Yeah, it's in
You
the
already did
original
change.
funding request.
Yeah.
This is an FY 2020.
25,
Yeah, it should be 20, you have another typo, it's FY 25.
should be 25.
Where is it?
Right in
You have
the.
FY 24, that's last year, this is FY 24.
We're actually in
26.
fiscal year 26.
Yeah, so it's, that's
Well-
the year,
Mark it, please.
So it's 26.
yes.
Okay,
I know.
Thanks. Thanks.
we work for 3 years
Right,
at one
July
time.
1, 2025 is FY
Yeah.
26.
The fiscal year and the calendar year.
Yeah, they didn't come back last year, so this is,
Yeah.
it's been a 2-year gap. All right, now that Tim is back, go ahead, guys, and introduce yourselves.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really interested to find out about the new people on the board too, but I know that's, that'll be in the
They'll introduce
future.
themselves and introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm Kathy Cohn, I'm the founder and founding director. And this is Laura Harehold, who has been working with us since the 80s. She was my grad student when she came for a college program when we first started.
Wow.
And she's been really involved. She was a student and over the years, her resume's in here if you'd like to look at it. She has directed the school. She's totally integral to the programs, understands all the facilities, so it's been a gift to have that. And I want to share with you that Denise Allen has found a position in town, which gives her the kind of health insurance and all the perks that happen. And so she has moved to that position and she's been very involved in the school. And really was instrumental in some incredible new community programs this summer. So I just wanted to share that. We're happy for her because it's a big thing, you know. Okay, so.
And she was really behind it.
We
Major
worked on-
player in making this grant, and I. Am acting in a lot of roles right now in an interim fashion as we regroup. And I studied this as well as I could, but I just wanted to say that. I'm not an expert on this document.
But quite a bit.
Well, I just,
Yeah,
You want to, everybody introduce themselves?
yeah, that'd be great.
Joseph Topham, I'm on the planning board and this is my, why I'm on the board.
Okay, great.
Tim Savarino, I'm an elected member at large of the community. Nice to meet you.
Many years.
Yes.
Elected member, Neville Richard, and that's my project.
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Eleanor Antonietti, I work for the land bank, and I am the land bank appointed representative.
Jesse.
Jesse Dutra, Park and Rec, and I'm happy to be here.
Great, good. Thank you.
Oh, I'm Glenna. I'm the
hi,
administrator.
Glenna.
Yeah, for the CPC office, right. So I've
Oh, by the
always
way.
go to you.
So I thought if I could, Linda, I might take a sec. To those of you that are new, do you know NISDA?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
Have a sense of NISDA?
Send my daughters in.
Okay,
Love it,
good. Because it's been quite a journey. I was listening to the housing presentation. And I had thought that it has really been something to find a home for an institution. And we started out in people's houses, Millie Lou Smith on Westchester, on New York Street. There were Clint and Edith Andrews farmhouse. We were in the basement of the Coffin School, the top floor of Academy Hill. We were in the public schools. We were in people's studios. And then we found the barn when Dr. Voorhees had Dr. Marsh. He was going to live there, but his wife didn't want to be in the barn. And we moved into the barn when there were cement floors and cow stanchions. And it's been quite a journey. And thank God my husband, Larry Cronin, was right there by my side during those early years. And in fact, when Laura was here, when she came as a student,
We were having trouble, you know how people have housing problems on Nantucket? We had real problems housing the students coming in and out. We'd be negotiating somebody's bathroom and at a certain time of day in the attic and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden I thought, oh my God, the lightship. And I looked and there was the lightship and I went to Leroy True Historical. And I said, Mr. True, are there bunks in there? He said, yes. I said, can we rent them? And we rented them for $30 a week. And we housed our students in the lightship. And then Bill Rich came, who was an architect, to help us with the barn. And he had the cottages and he and his wife sold the cottages and it's been rolling like that. The other real challenge has been the water and flooding. Oh my gosh. It really started in a bad way with the perfect storm, which was in the 90s. And then in 2015, there was the no name. And I remember that storm really well, and there were more since then. I'm kind of getting to the point of why we have these cottages out there and why we are requesting the funding. And so anyway, we were flooded in the no name storm. And I got a call. And one of the artists that was in the cottages said, Kathy, I went to put my foot down to go to the bathroom and the water's up to my knees. And so he called the police or the fire station and they came down and they had to rescue people in dories. And that began all this restoration. Every time it would flood, we'd have to take all the mattresses, redo all the kitchens, all that kind of thing. And so what happened is the town about 2015 came to us and said, we'd like to widen the road. And at first it was a little crescent and then it got bigger and bigger as they looked at the turning radius of the trucks. And so there was a big piece taken out and we were like this, the traffic was right on top, it was gonna be right on top of us. So we went to the land bank and as you know, the land bank purchased that land, which was incredible. And so there were only 2 cottages that were not compromised to the point that they could be fixed. And the rest of them had to be destroyed. And so we have these 2 cottages, which is what we're applying for funding.
Have you seen them when you've gone out to Warwick?
There's a picture on them. Okay, on the
Look
cover.
on where they are, it's just past Mizda.
So head of Pocono.
Yeah, it's at a Pocono Road.
Yeah, and
And
it's,
we used to go turkey hunting, remember turkey shoots there?
Oh, yeah.
so what's kind of wonderful is that it's been a real journey doing this, but we now have a campus that's close by, right?
Yeah.
Because we've got the school and then the cottages are down the street. And what we've accomplished on that property to date is that we were also in 2000, Jack Dunn, who was then the building inspector. I loved him as a building inspector. He used to come out and talk about the
Don't say
universe.
so much about that.
He'd tell us about the seeding of the universe and all that kind of thing. He was really interesting. But anyway, he called me, said, hey, Kathy, there's this couple that have a cottage on Squam Road, and they'd like to gift it to you. And the cottage was 2,000 square feet, right? The cottage. And it was at a point where we had just purchased the long shed, which is the second piece of land at the farm. And I said, Jack, we can't possibly do that. It's impossible. We have too much on our plate. And he said, well, they kept coming back to us. Finally, they said they'd give us 40,000 to move it. And they did do that, but it cost a lot more. But then Molly Ziklis gave us 3.3 acres of land. It's been a miracle. It's been like, there've been real challenges, but sometimes the road opens before us, and you just have to keep working at it. So anyway, that got moved and it sat there. As we worked on the farm and getting the farm redone, because as I shared with you, it needed a lot, the dairy barn needed a lot and the long shed was being redone. And so anyway, we decided that we would go back. I gotta get my story straight here. There's a lot of different building projects going on. So we have really made headway and thanks to your grants, because it would have been absolutely impossible to do this. And we're at a point now where we are in really good shape at the school. We have the heifer, thankfully, the grants made a huge difference. And some of the funds that we got from selling, we had to use a lot of those funds in order to do what we're doing. And where I was at was I was saying what we've accomplished at the property that we're asking for funding on. Is that house that was donated to us sat there while we finished up at the farm. And we just completed and got an occupancy permit for what we call the Atlantic House. There's a house sitting there that's all done, and we used our money to do that. And now we have these two cottages that really need to be restored and renovated. And we went to Mary Bergman at Preservation Trust. And we said, Mary, these were built in 1950. Do you feel like these could we apply for funding? And she said, definitely. So she's really supportive of that. And there's a letter of support in here from her. And we are now here in order to do that. That's what we'd like to do.
Are these structures down on foundations now?
Yes.
Okay, so last time I went out there, they were still sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on foundations, and we have two cottages. We're calling them the east and the west cottage. And the east cottage, we applied for a grant to the Mass Cultural Council and received $158,000 toward that cottage. And as I said, we've already invested some of the funds that we had at the school in order to do some of the foundations and that kind of thing. And we've accomplished getting the house done. So we're really getting there. We've got the septic system in. Everything's ready to go as far as actually doing the restoration. And so we ask your help with that, and so that we can complete them, because they're terribly critical to the school's function, because they allow us to house our students, to house visiting artists. And sometimes we have island organizations coming to us and saying, we don't have housing, and we put our actors here. The literacy center from the public schools spent a winter in our cottages when they're downtown. So they ebb and flow with other parts of the community as well.
Just a question, I couldn't find it, it may be in here and I just couldn't find it, but the contractor estimates to justify the breakdown of your costs, are they in here? I just didn't see them.
We've never had we have them, but we never put them in the grant.
Oh, okay,
I think that's something we need to see.
yeah, it's,
You can submit it, submit it to Glenna after.
Okay.
yeah, I thought,
Because we need to break down the cost.
Okay,
so
sure.
It's a high
And so
cost.
that would be the estimates directly from the contract.
Yeah,
Right.
we have to
Yeah.
justify the 5, 6, 8,
Yeah, sure.
430 in order for us to even deal with it.
What that will do, once we're completed with these two, will add 7 living studios. And it's not only just housing people for the barn, but we have an artist residency program. And that's really an important program. And what that residency program does is it brings people to the island who really do wonderful programs in the community. But also the residency out there is the financial backbone of the operating budget of the school.
Creates a lot of revenue.
It makes the revenue that helps us to support ourselves.
It
right?
also provides staff housing. All these buildings help
Right.
us staff our. We can't staff people without providing some housing.
Are either east and west habitable now, or is this to
No.
make them habitable?
No,
Shells.
we are, the contractor said, do not go near them. You cannot go in them. In fact, I think they locked it.
They're nailed shut.
They're nailed shut, because what happened, it was unbelievable. When we had those floods, the flooding would come up to the mattresses in the bed a couple of times. And also, if it was just a small flood, there were lots of little ones, those cottages were built under the Crispin.
On the ground.
And the story is that he had different people doing each one, and some had cement blocks under them, but they were right on the ground. And they,
Well, back in the day, I'm not so sure building codes were building codes.
No,
So
they were built
all
before
of this has to be brought up to.
That was a done
I think
deal,
we
yes,
said-
so we can't.
Yeah, so this is about us bringing it up to.
He was ahead of his time.
oh, yeah.
and also we were able to capture space, and we did this in the house that got moved from Squam too, is that because of the way the land is, we were able to put a lower level in, we're calling the garden level, but what it is that there's enough, the way it works
there's windows that artists can actually work and people can live on that lower level, so we're capturing more space.
That's where the CO is about to be issued, right? That one?
Pardon?
So you, in here, you wrote that there's a CO that you're waiting on, a certificate of occupancy for one of the.
Oh, no, we already have the occupancy permit for the main building.
Gotcha.
And we have to totally restore the other two before we can even go
Yeah,
down.
this is the very beginning for
Right.
these buildings.
Well,
So that was
um,
Val's drawing.
Pardon?
That was Val all in his drawing. That had that
Oh, yeah,
subterranean,
yeah.
yeah, that was
And the
perfect.
good news is that they look horrible from the outside. I mean, that's not the good news. The good news is that the interiors are absolutely wonderful. They're board walls, they're rafted ceilings, they're painted white. And we feel like this includes a bit of work in there, but they're basically ready to go.
Well,
like
they're
out in the
old
heat.
Nantucket cottages.
Yeah.
I mean, the rafters, you put your fishing rod in the rafter. I mean, it's that.
Yeah.
you
They're not,
if you want them year round, you gotta insulate these.
Yes,
So you
yeah.
have this.
Oh, they were, yeah, they were insulated from the outside, but yeah.
we have no intention of making the interior particularly modern.
No,
Just
no.
Make it, functional and environmentally friendly.
Now, we only have so much funding. And this is a big ask compared to some of the others.
Yes, we know.
If we can't fund the whole thing, where is it gonna leave you guys? Are you able to do one unit instead of the two?
Well, yeah, we can take them one at a time, and the other thing is that we really are intending to, we've been thinking about who we can go to do matching funds as
So I'm
well.
gonna say some other fundraising stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we're a nonprofit and we typically do, engage people in the community to help us.
You should have a targeted fundraising, just a suggestion for these cottages as opposed to NISDA in general. You should
No,
I
target.
think that's.
Oh, and that's a really nice ask, because people can get excited about
Yeah,
this.
because then they know what they're funding, instead of just funding the whole organization, they're funding something very specific
Yes.
for a specific purpose.
I agree.
So you might want to think about that, but we do need the breakdown, and if we can get a breakdown between the two cottages, what it's gonna take to fix this one versus what it's gonna take to fix the east versus west. And that may help us,
More
because if we
detail.
can fund one whole cottage, that may be better than throwing money at both cottages where you can't finish both of them. So we need to have that information given to Glenna.
This particular request is for the funding of the West Cottage.
Okay,
Okay, so
Okay,
not even the
and
east
then,
cottage,
pardon?
not even the east one.
No, because the east one, it's slightly smaller. And as we mentioned before, the foundations are done. There's a lot that we've invested in. And so the grant from the Mass Cultural Council is what we're intending to fund the
east.
east with, and
Yep.
this is the west, and the
Yeah.
west is slightly bigger.
That's
That
even more
grant
reason
has
we
already
need
been
that.
approved. We have that money secured.
That's even more reason why we need to see it, because some of us are in the construction
Oh, good.
business, both of us. And Tim's bagged his share of nails in the past.
And I know enough about it.
Yeah, so we really do need to see the breakdown from the
Okay.
contractors on that, because that's a very high amount. And
Yes,
so
it
we
is.
need to see if there's other things that maybe we can work with.
Sure.
Okay, if you can get it to Glenn, I would maybe by the end of next week or something.
Okay,
Okay,
Sounds good.
great, and then Glenn will get it out to the rest of us.
okay.
Are there any other questions from anybody?
No, wonderful organization.
Oh, thank you.
Did anybody come out on Thursday nights this summer?
No, I
You
got
know,
none.
we had a thrilling Thursday night. It was the first year we've done it. We
Was so
just said we have Island Tunes, which are island musicians doing an open mic. And a shout out to older people. I mean, every one of these musicians was seasoned, as in
I like
white
that.
hair.
Seasoned work for them.
No, and I don't know, each evening, there must have been 8 different people who got performed. We had a food truck, we had a local food truck. Then we also opened up our clay studio for the Empty Bowl project. And just community people came in, they didn't have to know how to do anything. We guided them through a process. And they came and they hung out and they made bowls. And yesterday we delivered 100 bowls to the food pantry for their fundraiser.
Which is in 10 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what was amazing is that the people that came from the community didn't necessarily, they weren't in our program.
No, they didn't know.
But they were so excited to work with clay and they'd be out there, little kids and bowls, and they've been making bowls and the bowls are
Hey, guys,
very, very creative.
Hey,
Glenna,
Hey.
Jesse, you can't do that,
what are you doing?
because that thing picks you up and not the rest of it.
My apologies.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Anyway, I'm just saying,
Thank you very much.
I'm just saying, we were so excited about how much the community embraced us this summer.
Yeah.
But you know, in the summer, I feel like people who live here are so busy making their living. They can't take advantage of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Thursday night was just something that fit for everybody and they showed up and it was a lot of fun.
Outreach
I couldn't
on your
believe it.
programs is critical, because not enough people know.
Yeah, I
Can
didn't
I
know
just
about
share
it.
one
do.
story?
Yeah, we've been making a big effort this year with social media and our constant contact and we're on the radio. We were
The banner on,
Current.
the banner on the current,
Yeah.
and then with the good old Inky Mirror, you know, we've really been trying to
because more people,
keep.
back in the
info
days, you
flowing.
know, there weren't that many people that avail themselves of what you do, and you're getting
Right,
10
now
times
we're a
more
community
now.
center.
Now you're
Yeah,
community
we're getting
center,
there.
and you need, more people need to know that you were there and what you do, and it's
Yeah.
not just that limited thing that when you first started trying to do this, you know, 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Or maybe
Yeah.
more.
I mean, so it's,
Yeah.
people need to know, but we need to talk about when we can meet again.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
so,
you
We'll
very
get
much.
that
Hold on one
info to
second.
Glenna.
Okay,
so my
great.
daughter went to your ceramic classes when, I think it was 5 or whatever, but anyway, she fell in love with ceramics and then she went off to Pomfret. And then she got an achievement award through Pomfret, so she had a little exhibition,
Oh,
and then our work ceramics are gonna be, remain on the walls for as long as Pomfret, so I wanna say thank you for that program, because it's just something she
Thank you.
loved.
is
and
she
so
coming? She is still on the island or?
She's
in
at
a-
Boston College right now.
Well, tell her to contact us.
I will.
Maybe we
I
have a
would love-
place for
yeah.
out in the lawn shed this summer helping us.
Maybe she'll come out, I will
Yeah, we
definitely
do,
let
we
her
do
know.
need some, we do have some staffing needs out there.
Okay. I will let her
Kathy
know.
has
Yeah.
one clothing
I
thing.
just wanted to share that I went out one of these Thursday nights, we were out for Island Kittens, there were 50 cars parked.
Wow.
That's how it's drawing people.
Well, that's great.
And then when I went, my dentist left the island. You're talking about your daughter. My dentist left the island, so I went to see Dr. Roberts and they did the whole formal thing, looking at all the teeth and putting the, then Dr. Roberts comes around and he goes like this down to the chair and he says, I was a kinder artist.
Wow. Wow.
That's going back a ways.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Okay.
All right, thank you
very
very much, guys.
Back to you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, we got 4 we haven't seen. We have Remain, we have the town clerk. We have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And we have the Nantucket Lighthouse.
Is
Did we do
sustainable
that?
not one? Is sustainable not doing it? I thought sustainable was after the.
Sustainable involved with,
58 Main Street.
The main.
no, Sustainable did not end up doing one.
Oh, I thought they were doing the farm stand improvements. Okay.
No?
All right.
Linda, could we,
Remain Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Lighthouse School and Town Clerk. That's who we have.
We have 4 left.
Yeah.
And then housing.
could we do those 4?
On one
The
day.
day, the day of,
Yeah,
November.
it's just-
That's a whole separate thing. That was some funds we had left over that we approved.
No, that's right, we did the
November.
Like first somewhere in
I
there.
think it's on. I'll tell you in a minute.
You have to be careful. Care. You have to be careful how late we put this.
November
It's gonna take a
meeting
while.
is the 19th.
That's too late.
November,
19.
Our November meeting is the 19th.
I'm
Yeah, I
gonna be out of the
To
country,
do that. I want to discuss
so if we can do it early.
all of
I'll
this
really
at that
appreciate it.
meeting,
Yeah.
because we still have to get it into a warrant article to the selectmen.
Leaving the country after.
We don't have to do it by the usual date,
That is
but we gotta
very
have it. We have to have all the interviews done. Do we have any idea, people?
I do.
What?
When are you leaving, Neville?
No, you want ideas about things for funding, right?
Oh, no,
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 no.
dates
Formal-
for the
formal
next
dates.
meeting.
No, anytime within that,
When are you leaving is the question. So we do it before.
I'm gonna be gone on the 3rd week of November, well, 3rd week, the 2nd week, really. On the
Okay.
10th,
So
from the 10th
maybe
on, I'm no good.
the first week in November might work.
Yeah, or even a Friday or Saturday.
No, we can't meet Saturdays under the law.
Rising tide.
Okay, so the first week. I don't even know where I am now, 16th, okay.
Tuesday.
Does
First
Wednesday
week from-
work for people still?
I am good up to Veterans Day.
Wednesday is bad for me. I
It's not good for me.
Change my
Aren't you- Yeah. you're-
early or late.
We can't meet anytime
Could we
this
do
week.
earlier in the week that week?
Yeah,
Tuesdays are good.
Wednesday, I'm on Tuesday, I'm having bone surgery, so.
finally.
Finally.
So what Tuesday are you talking about? That
Okay.
first week? All right, anybody have a problem with October 29th?
No,
No. No,
Let me just look.
I have to take
That's
my
a
kid,
Tuesday.
I have to take my kid back to school, but I can get my husband to do that. Yeah, I can do that.
October 29th. You want me to send that out to everyone?
Does that work for everybody at the moment?
Yeah. What day is that?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 29th.
Oh, excellent.
And we start at 9 and we only have 4 left. I think. the
Sorry, one
housing-
day of 2 weeks from today.
Yep, and I think the housing trust is gonna take some time, so you better schedule them for more than a
Oh, yeah.
half an hour, maybe.
So are we talking like a 2-hour meeting, maybe? More like,
Yeah, 2-hour meeting.
Can we do 10?
2 hours.
10
Yeah,
to
10's
12 as
We can
opposed
do
to 9?
10. Does that work
yeah,
better?
I like.
10 to 12.
I'm gonna be leaving that meeting early. We start at 10 o'clock, okay?
Okay.
2 hours for,
Well, we've got
Depends.
Remain, which will take probably 15 minutes because we've seen them before.
Let's do
Yeah.
the short ones first.
yeah, we may.
The short ones first, and then we've got.
Well, we may, that's up on, up on Main Street.
Yeah, that's that stucco building. We saw them last year. They knew they were coming back.
Yeah.
The town clerk's records are something we've done several times under Catherine Stover, so we know what Browns River does.
Lighthouse School is a new one,
Lighthouse School is a new one.
so they should
Oh, so
automatically
that's
get.
gonna be a long
every
meeting.
minute.
So that's a half hour and then
Yeah.
15
It's a
minutes.
long-
That's an hour. And then we
There were
give,
3 that you had,
Lighthouse School,
there were 3 there.
Lighthouse School
there's four.
is new. That's a half hour.
Lighthouse School is
The
a,
town clerk is not new.
that's a big one.
And the
Before they
Remain is
have-
not new.
Oh, the new ones get a half hour?
Remain might be long.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Neville's gonna have some questions.
Yeah, I
All
have
right,
a lot of
so
questions.
let's figure an hour between those 3.
Okay.
And then we're gonna have to spend at least probably 45 minutes arguing with the trust.
Are you planning on arguing?
No, I don't think we should do it that way. Just let them come in, make their pitch, and we'll talk about it.
We'll argue amongst
No,
ourselves.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of explaining to do. That's the point.
I know,
And I've
I
already been over this with Christie. They have an awful lot of explaining to do.
Don't send her into
accountability
labor
to
now.
do, Because we have right now, so you know, we have 2 $5 million
I know,
bonds,
I've read it. That's all right.
okay? And they just got 6.5 coming out of our tax record every single year.
Where's
And
the gift that keeps on giving?
they're leveraging that for 45 million. They're leveraging the 6.5 on a $45 million bond,
Just for weight drive.
but they're after us for another bond.
Yeah, since you're talking, I'm gonna say this. I was gonna say this anyway, and I think this is appropriate now. Here's what I'm thinking. If we did this bond, right now, I feel very bad about all the bonds that you're covering. You did this bond, just say out of the clear blue, somebody comes up at town meeting and say, we put in an article to get rid of CPC. We can't do it. We're stuck in the bond.
Right,
We can't get out. And then if you add on to it, we're stuck, double stuck and triple stuck. That's what we're doing to ourselves. But right now, we have, how many bonds did you say?
2.
2,
Yeah, there'd be 375
but they're big.
apiece, so it's
Yeah.
$750 a year, all
Oh,
at
yeah,
the top.
exactly.
Now, we didn't do it last year because we didn't have to service either one of those bonds, which is why we had another $1 million to spend for this year.
Right.
But I have to go meet with Brian. He thinks we're gonna have to service at least one of those bonds. So that would be 375 off the top of whatever we're getting from the state.
All I'm saying is just think about what I just said going forward, because,
I'm against it anyway.
I don't wanna talk about the merits. I don't wanna do that. It's not on the agenda.
No,
But I guess we'll have to start thinking about what we're doing
since you're
here.
talking about it.
So it could be a 2-hour meeting. It could be, it's 9:30.
I gotta cancel what I have.
9:30.
I don't care.
So I have
9:30.
October 29th,
9:30
9:30
Yeah.
to 12.
to
I can
11:30.
do 9, it's just 9 later. I can do 9.
If we have to.
If you want to do 9,
If
that's
you can do 9. it'd be good.
9:30 to
All right,
11:30.
just go 9 to 11.
9 till we get through.
Nine.
It's 9 to 11 on the 29th.
Nine.
Okay, let me call mine.
So Glenna will put out a thing to everybody and then talk to the 4 people.
And then we need,
Yeah.
and we need the.
And so that's
contract
firm,
documentation.
October 29th, 9 to 11, whether people can be in person or not.
Yeah, they can go on Zoom if they has to be,
Um,
but they need to.
But everybody here, because we need to have that quorum.
And you gotta check, we have this room or the other room, which we try.
Either
Right,
one,
well,
either this one or that one.
yeah, I'll get that situated today.
Great.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, somebody,
Second.
motion to adjourn, was made
So
by
moved.
Eleanor, seconded by Joe at 11:48.
Hey, Max.
Good timing, guys. All in favor?
Thank you.
Free for lunch?
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah,
All right.
it's so nice, we don't
I'll
have
just
to do
get
a
out
roll
of the
call
room now.
when we're in person.
Well, there wasn't anybody up, no, we
Right,
do,
right.
there's somebody up there.
No, I know, but
Somebody
we
else there.
didn't, yeah,
Bam.
it's a beautiful.
Sushi, but.
I have to say, it's very fascinating.